Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on in to the Saturday Night Network for a very special podcast here right after Labor Day to talk about some SNL 50 coming up very soon in just a few weeks. So now that we're ramping up the podcast, I'm very excited to bring in some friends for a special draft here on the SNN. Of course, my name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. Very happy to be here as a presentation of LateNighter.com and with some of our great podcasters that will be joining you all season long to cover SNL 50. So first up, let's bring in my man, Bill Kenney. Bill, how are you?
John, I'm great. I got my new SNL50 shirt. Just came in the mail from NBC. I'm so excited to be here. These drafts always get a little wild, a little wacky, and haven't seen some of these beautiful faces since the end of 49. So really excited to talk to everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun that we have here tonight. Joining us as well is one of our favorite journalists around, and that is Rachel Chang. Rachel, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited because I've never done a draft. I have no idea how this works, and I'm so unprepared. So I'm ready. I'm ready to go in cold.
It's okay. It's just the way we like it. We love it when newbies come into the draft podcast. So it's always so much fun to get to do this. Someone who joined us for a previous draft as well, my Canadian friend, Kirstin Rajala. Kirstin, how are you?
I'm great. And I've officially just gone on the SNL store because I also want a season 50 t-shirt. So excuse me while I buy some apparel.
Girl, I did the same thing.
Yeah, Bill's selling the shirts already. So it's going to be a fun year. I'm really excited to see what other merch and stuff they do to celebrate the 50th. Joining us in the bottom half of our screen, heading over to Amanda Mitchell. Amanda, how are you?
Hi, John. How are you? It's too hot in New York. I'm sweating. Thrilled though.
Oh.
And also,
I'm
this
doing
is
well.
the sportiest I get every year. You know, I don't care about like any kind of athleticism other than the Olympics. That was different. But like this is my and the U.S. Open, but that's also different. But also this is my whatever sporting event is major happens at this time.
Yeah, this is the Olympics of SNL podcasting right here, doing a draft on this.
Absolutely.
So everybody get the game paint on.
Suni Lee.
100%.
Yeah,
move yeah. Well, that voice you hear is TJ Randolph. TJ, how are you doing?
John, I feel great to be here, but honestly, I was a little trepidatious because I wondered if the magic was gone. We hadn't talked in a few months. We were on a break. You know, we could both like do whatever we want to. That's okay. But I was wondering, is the magic gone? But I'm happy that we're in bed again together, because this is where I belong. In bed with Jon Schneider. And
trepidatious.
All the audio listeners are having a field day right
now. For the audio listeners, none of that is metaphorical.
Yeah. You're writing some
John
SNN.
John and I are in matching footy pajamas.
Fiction. Is there an SNN HR? Because I think we need to get in contact with them.
Yeah,
no, look, for the audio listeners, don't
That's
go
Rich
on YouTube.
Tackenberg. Rich Tackenberg is SNN HR.
Because right now, John and I are in matching footy pajamas in the same bed.
Yeah.
Go to Haynes.
Let the listeners write their own fan fiction, TJ.
So funny.
Yeah, Haynes is here as well. Haynes, how are you?
Oh, I will tell you, I just had the most incredible Labor Day weekend. It is in the past, and it was awesome. On Friday night, you guys know I'm a big music guy. Friday night, I went up to Asheville, North Carolina to see a psychedelic math rock band from Australia called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. Love them. And then the very next night, and this is a great back-to-back, the very next night at another venue in the same city, got to attend the Back That Ass Up 25th anniversary tour, Juvenile, with a full New Orleans brass section backing him up. So pretty fun weekend that happened.
Yes. And here, that is incredible. And here with an incredible Labor Day weekend story himself is Sammy Kay. Sammy, how are you?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be here. Not to spoil it for the listeners at home, but because this is a pre-record, I'm curious to see if Haynes is going to survive that weekend. It seems like he's got a lot going on. So, this could be, this could take a turn for the worse. But no, I'm super excited to be here. These drafts are super fun. And SNL50, we've been talking about it since we started the podcast, and we're just around the corner. So very excited for tonight's draft.
If he dies, it's on you. I swear.
It's on you, Sammy.
it's so bad because it'd be funny. Like
I want
that's
all of the
how
credit
bad
and
it
none
would
of the
be.
blame.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Haynes,
Well,
I feel a
stay
curse
alive.
setting in. I can feel it.
I
on my
know, like
shoulders
it's
now.
not good.
okay. Well, the Grim Reaper hopefully is not coming for any of us. Hopefully, we'll still be here by the time this podcast is released. So, just for the sake of, in case, I don't know, maybe NBC or SNL announces who is hosting in season 50 between the time we record this and the time that this airs, I just want to save all our asses by saying that we are recording this in the evening of Wednesday, August 28th. As of now, we don't actually know anything about who is hosting in season 50. So just in case you're like, you idiots, you could have picked this one, we don't know yet. So here's what we're going to do here tonight. We are going to be drafting, and we've done a ton of drafts here over the last few years, so we'll link them in the notes here on the side on YouTube so you can go and see some of the other drafts we've done. But basically, we are going to be drafting tonight SNL50 alumni. So that means that any cast member that is still alive, a former cast member that may come back at some point during 50, is eligible for this draft. And here is how the points will work. We're going to be giving out 1 point if that cast member appears in any form, so a sketch appearance basically, in the SNL50 special that is set to air on that Sunday in February. So 1 point if they show up at any point during the anniversary special, and that's only for former cast members that we're drafting here. We're going to give out 2 points if any former cast member cameos in a canonical episode of season 50. So if someone shows up in the premiere, we see that person, they pop up in a sketch, that's 2 points for whoever drafts that person. 3 points will be given out if that person or anyone you draft hosts an episode in season 50. So those are the only 3 points or different styles of points that we are going to be doing here today. Of course, if you're a listener and you think this is fun, do this game with your friends. Send us your picks if you want to draft around with the people that you love. So we'd love to get to see all of that. We want to get your comments on the draft as we go through everything tonight. And we will be drafting 5 former cast members each, 8 rounds total. Okay, draft crew. Any questions? Or are we good to get going? All right, let's do it. So back in December was our last draft that we did right before the holidays. We drafted one-time hosts that we would hope we would see come back to host Saturday Night Live. We posted those results online on social media, and for the first time in the history of the Saturday Night Network, Andrew Haynes has won a draft. So, Haynes, I don't know if you knew that, but you
had no idea.
Yeah, congratulations. You get to pick the order tonight. So you can choose which order we're going to be drafting. It's going to be a snake draft. So whoever drafts first will draft last in the second round and so on. So Haynes, I'm going to send it over to you to pick the draft order tonight.
Gosh, wow, really putting me on the spot. You know, I feel like I always get beat up in these draft orders. So I'm kind of tempted to put myself in the number 1 spot. And, you know, you only live once, so why not? Even though I don't think there's any real strategy. I don't think 1 is any worse than like a middle or at the end, since we do so much bouncing back and forth. But next, I will go with... I'm going to put Rachel next.
Okay.
And let's see. After that, you know what? Sammy, why don't you hop up here with us?
Nice.
Bill, I'm not going to beat you up. You're a good guy. Amanda, come on up. Come on up, Amanda. Yeah. All right. Kirstin, stay right there. Bill, after Kirstin. TJ, you're gonna like that spot. Oh, but John put you in the wrong spot because John's last, actually.
Okay. Thanks, Haynes. All right, so we're gonna be bookending the draft. So appreciate that. The order we got here tonight. We got Haynes, then Rachel, then Sammy, Amanda's 4th, then we head over to Kirstin at 5, then Bill, TJ, and myself last, and then I'll be picking first in the second round. So Haynes, who will be the first pick in this draft? There are officially as of now, 134 cast members that are still around that are no longer cast members on the show. And I will also make the caveat that if a cast member leaves the show between now and next Wednesday, we obviously did not know that they were eligible for this draft. So, Haynes, who is your first pick?
So this is tough because you have to think about, obviously you want to get someone who's going to host, but then I think and you think if someone's going to host, they're probably going to be in the season 50 special. But you got to think who's a person that they actually might bring back to do cameos or might pop out because one of their friends is hosting or something like that. I mean, it would be easy to say Will Ferrell here, but I just don't know what kind of stuff he's putting out this year. I feel like someone who's always at the top of the chart for NBC and they constantly want to promote is Jimmy Fallon. So I'm going to say Jimmy Fallon is someone that we'll see probably a few times this season.
All right. Wow. So Jimmy Fallon, host of The Tonight Show, goes first overall here to Haynes. A very interesting pick that we have here. First, obviously, he's hosted the show 3 times previously, but it's been a while, I think since 2017, that he's hosted the show and has cameoed a few times, including this past season when Justin Timberlake was the musical guest and Dakota Johnson was hosting. So we certainly expect to see him this season. He did open up SNL50 with JT. So, Bill, I'm going to go to you first on this. Let me know what you think of Haynes's pick here, first overall, Jimmy Fallon.
I knew you were going to come to me, John, and there's a reason for that, right? Because we have been talking all summer about the host countdown and my supposed hatred for Jimmy Fallon. It's not true. I don't hate him. I just don't think he's as good as everybody thinks he is. Now, he is a very good host, and he is right downstairs. Even though it has been 7 years, I think it's a very good possibility that we do see him. So I think this is a really good pick for Haynes.
Okay, wow. So Jimmy Fallon goes here first overall. Okay, Rachel Chang is going to be coming up next with pick number 2. So Rachel, who are you going to pick?
Well, first of all, I'm a little relieved because I was very worried about strategy here, and I actually had Jimmy in my top 2. So congratulations, Haynes, for getting Jimmy. An interesting fact I came across today is that Jimmy Fallon is turning 50 on September 19th. So his 50th birthday, very close to the premiere. Maybe that's a good reason. So as much as I wanted Jimmy, I'm going to go with who I thought was the obvious pick, even though it's not officially confirmed yet, I don't think, is Maya Rudolph.
Yes, Maya does go here, number 2. It's interesting. You never know how these drafts are going to go. I agree with you, Rachel. I thought consensus overall pick was Maya, since there already has been news out there about the fact that she's going to be playing Kamala this season. So it would make sense you just automatically accumulate some points there. But perhaps there's some, oversaturation with Maya where she appears a lot in the fall and then we don't get her as much later in the season. So there's certainly a little bit of give and take there with this choice. Sammy, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Maya landing at 2 instead of the presumptive number 1 pick here? This time she goes to Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I was very shocked that she didn't go first. Haynes always throws curveballs during these drafts, but Fallon also a great pick here. But there was, it was interesting to hear a couple weeks back that she was going to be brought back. It is kind of a bummer for us SNL fans who do a podcast where we're like trying to speculate throughout the summer, like, oh, are they going to bring Maya back? Are they not going to bring her back? Now we know, semi via press release, she is going to be back at least for the first couple episodes, you're assuming, of the season. Obviously, she hosted last year towards the end of the season, so maybe that affects her likelihood of hosting again so soon, but I think this pick makes total sense. And if Rachel had not taken her, I definitely would have taken her in the next spot.
So, Sammy, who will you take with the 3rd overall pick?
This is really tough, but I'm debating between 2 people, and I think I'm leaning. Okay, I'm going with Dana Carvey here. Dana Carvey is my pick. We've been kind of speculating as far as 5-timers. Potentially, hosts that are 4-time hosts potentially joining the 5-timers club this season. I think Dana Carvey has a great shot at that. Obviously, he's such a steward of the show, hosting Fly on the Wall with David Spade. And at this point, he's kind of really the representative of that second golden era of the show. that late 80s cast, to where I think you'll definitely get representation from him. Definitely an SNL50, potentially as a host. Obviously, he has a ton of great impressions that they can, place in different episodes. So, I'm feeling pretty good about getting Dana here at number 3.
Yeah, great pick with Dana here. Hasn't hosted since 2011, but somebody who's often talked about as a great next potential to be in the Five Timers Club. And, with the success of Fly on the Wall and his work with David Spade, there was expectation that perhaps we would see him pop up at some point. He was appearing in SNL40. Last we saw him with Mike Myers doing some Wayne's World. So the expectation is that one of the greatest cast members ever will appear at some point in the next year on the show in some form. Kirstin, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Dana going to Sammy here with his first pick?
Classic pick. You took the words right out of my mouth, John, with, the hot streak that he's on with the podcast, and that he's a legend among cast members. So interesting. Wouldn't have been my top, but I like that you made that choice, because I do think he'll be recognized, and it's a bold move that he might host. So we shall see.
Okay, Amanda, you'll take us to the 4th pick overall in this draft.
I have so many thoughts about this, and I've been sitting here. I have my list is way too long, but it makes sense for me personally, I believe. And my guest has arrived. Hi.
Great timing.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. I'll deal with her in a second. Hi. So anyways, here is going to be, I think I'm going to pick Adam Sandler. Because he has a Netflix special. I think if he's going to come back, I would not be shocked if he hosted the premiere. There's that. And yeah, I think he's a great choice. I think he's he's got things going on. He wants to talk, and it's about time. And he's a little cute, very popular. Yes.
Yeah, so here we go with Adam Sandler, who goes 4th overall in this draft, hosted a very memorable episode back in season 44, one that was highly anticipated for him, not coming back to host the show since leaving, 24 years later, he comes back. Really only has cameoed a couple times since he left the show. So, for me, it would be very exciting to see him return at some point this season. His appearance in SNL40 was mostly in the Andy Samberg Lonely Island pre-tape that they did for the 40th. So I do wonder what we may get from Adam this coming season. I know he's always working on new projects, so there's some exciting stuff coming for him outside of the show. This could make sense. TJ, I would love to know your thoughts on Adam Sandler going to Amanda here at 4th.
The Sandman. The one thing I'm thinking about Adam Sandler is I can't remember if when he hosted a few years ago, did he dress up or did he wear a t-shirt and basketball shorts? Sammy, I'm going to you as our resident Adam Sandler fan.
He definitely didn't wear a tuxedo. That's all I can tell you.
Okay. All right. So look, all he has to do is go to a Foot Locker and, whatever Foot Locker is closest to 30 Rock, and he's ready to host. Sorry. Honestly, I think the thing that weirds me out is the thing I remember the most from his episode was the Farley tribute, which I thought was very beautiful. As well as that thing about people being sad on vacations. But I don't know.
Good.
Adam Sandler's, yeah, very good. But he's funny. He's definitely reminiscent of the show. And what's so weird is, people who were in the 40th, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be in the 50th because they do the same thing. So it makes me think about that. He was such a prominent opener of that first, of that 40th, that I don't know if we would see him. Actually, no, we'll definitely see him pan to a camera or something like that. They'll probably give him a line, but I don't know if they would give him such a big role. I guess that's my thing, is how big would his footprint be on the 50th, considering what he did at the 40th?
I remember Rectix from his episode. That's one that I think is
Rectix?
Yeah, go
What's
back
that?
and check it out.
Great question, TJ. Let's
No,
John,
I
please
know I
explain.
watched it when it aired. I just can't remember it.
Let's go to a clip. Just definitely look it up. Okay, Kirstin, let's go to you for the 5th overall pick.
First of all, I don't know how I'm able to get this person, because I absolutely thought that one of my previous 4 super fans would have taken this next pick. This is someone who has such mass appeal outside of superfans that it's a smart business move to have them. They draw in a huge audience, and I'm talking, of course, about people must nod Will Ferrell. How am I getting Will Ferrell? I don't know, but I'm so excited. He does have a ton of projects. I mean, he was in Barbie movie. He's picking and choosing things really carefully. He's doing a lot of production. He does have projects coming out in 2025. So I don't even know that people care about that. He's an absolute legend, and I'm pinching myself that he's my number one pick.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I mean, one of the greatest cast members in SNL history, one of the greatest hosts in SNL history. You have to expect that they will want to have, potentially their biggest star ever come back to the show and participate at some point during the 50th. He hasn't hosted in a few years, so back since season 45. So, Bill and I talked about it this summer that, there's a good expectation that we could have that he will host at some point in season 50. So you'll definitely accumulate some points there. He was very much a part of the 40th special that we had. I remember him doing the Culps and, stuff like that. Obviously he did Celebrity Jeopardy. So, all over that episode. I have to imagine that as part of SNL 50 in February, he's going to be a major part, that they're going to write some stuff around him. So very solid pick here from you, Kirstin. Rachel, I'd love to know from you your perspective on Will Ferrell. How do you think he may do this year, and Kirstin's pick to get him?
He was exactly the one I was looking up right now, because I was like, how have somebody picked him yet? I was like, ooh, can I hold on till it snakes around? I mean, like Kirstin said, just his star factor is so huge. It makes sense for 50. It makes sense for him. I mean, I do think he'll probably just host one, so it's a 3-pointer. He's probably not going to do cameos or anything else. It'll be a one-time host thing, and or something with the 50th. So 3 or 4 points with him is my guess. Makes sense.
Yes, it does. Okay, Bill, over to you for pick number 6.
These first couple rounds are going to be really interesting because there's so many big names, and you just keep going down the list of people who haven't been picked yet, because the first 5 picks have been fantastic. I'm going with my first favorite SNL cast member. Came back in season 45 after a 35-year layoff. Of course, I'm talking about Eddie Murphy. He did such a phenomenal job coming back. It was such an event, as John and I talked about a couple weeks ago when he was on the all-time host list. And there's rumors already out there that he's going to host at Christmas. I don't know how much there is truth there is to that, but it seems like the right time. He got to come back, see that he's still got it as a sketch performer working with these younger kids. So I think we'll definitely see him host at some point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For someone as big as Eddie, it was so amazing to get to see him show up finally at SNL 40 in what ended up being a very weird appearance. But, we had him there, and then finally they got him to host a few years back, and everybody wants him to do it all over again because it was so fantastic to get to see Eddie back there. Haynes, for you, what do you think about Eddie going to Bill here, pick number 6?
I mean, it's a great pick. He's, easily, one of the greatest cast members in history. I mean, like at the very top. And, like we said, I mean, it's more than he still has the chops. I mean, he went beyond stealing every sketch that he was in. He completely owned that show the entire, night. And I don't see how in the world, he wouldn't be part of this season. Yeah, absolutely in the special, and he is, still doing work. He's got Netflix stuff going on and stuff. So, great pick. I expect we'll definitely see some Eddie Murphy this year.
Okay, TJ, over to you for pick number 7.
Wow, you guys are so dumb. I can't believe that you didn't make any of the choices that I would clearly make, which is a great choice. What's so crazy? I'm actually looking at 2 that I think are slam dunks. Slam dunk. You guys are fools. Except for Kirstin, that was a pretty solid. In Kirstin and Rachel, you kind of nailed it. You kind of nailed it. But all of you others, dummies, the rest of you, how could you not bring up Tina Fey? It's as if the woman pushes. It's as if she's like an unhoused person pushing a shopping cart just around 30 Rock. She's always there. Clearly, Tina Fey is. It's so irritating. It's like it's not even like, oh, let's speculate. Damn well, like she's gonna be like damn well. It's the most. It's like it's a. Damn it! I can't think of something funny. Look, Tina Fey. That's my answer.
Well, yeah. Okay.
I was stalling because I was trying to think of a bit.
Well, it's totally okay because I think this is a fantastic pick. I was really hoping that Tina would land all the way to me at the end of this round. I was like, oh, come on. Because, I mean, she's going to be very much a part of the season. Clearly, she's hosted 6 times, but hasn't hosted since season 43. She has to be a top pick of an alumni to potentially come back and host the season. We're going to see her in some form or another during the special. So to me, slam dunk across the board. Sammy, your thoughts on Tina going to TJ here at 7?
Yeah, now all of my top 5, in my ranked list have all been taken. So Tina was definitely in there. Member of the 5 Timers Club, and you'll definitely be seeing that presence probably in SNL50, if not, in pockets throughout the season. But yeah, it kind of just goes back to a question I think TJ actually brought up with Adam Sandler of like, are they going to want to repeat certain beats that they already did in SNL40? How do you, change the formula? I thought it was an amazing moment, bringing her, Amy, and Jane Curtin back to do Weekend Update, so how do you, incorporate Tina into SNL50? Again, I'm not doubting she's going to be in there in the special, but it's just something to think about when making these picks. But yeah, all-time great writer and cast member on the show, so makes sense that she's getting picked in the first round.
Also, I have a question, but I don't mean this as a pick on another player. But when Sammy earlier said that Maya was announced to be in the season, shouldn't she technically not count because that's a guaranteed point? Like, I don't know if that feels unbalanced. Okay, all right. That's not about the player. I'm more like, I didn't know that's a lock. Like, that's the one.
Yeah. I feel like NBC didn't announce it. It kind of just leaked in the press, sort of thing. It could not happen. She could decide not to do it. So it's not
formally. They haven't said
it was an official. Okay, I thought it was a formal announcement. I was like, well, we can't. Like, it feels like okay. I didn't realize. Okay, it's informal. That's fine.
Rachel, watch your back. That was a direct attack on you.
That was not an attack. I didn't even say Rachel's
classic
name.
TJ.
Everything but my name.
Yeah, coming in 5 picks later to try and negate her pick.
No, I just have ADHD, and it takes me a minute to think about things.
It's okay.
I was taking your pick.
Yeah. Do you want to trade? Here, I'll throw this out there. Do you guys want to trade picks?
Oh my God, we should do that for a draft sometime. Like, trade picks.
If you two want to swap your picks right now, you can, but you have to both agree to it.
Between Tina Fey and Maya Rudolph? No, because the thing is, we both have a slam dunk. Like, I'm so sure that Tina will be seen this season. I'm so sure of it.
Okay, so they're keeping their picks. All right, so here we
should
go.
Do trades at some point. That'd be fun.
Yeah, you definitely, we could do that. Okay, let's go with my first of 2 back-to-back picks here. I was really hoping I was going to get Tina here, but I'm going to go with somebody who I think if you look at the list of alumni, I'm going to put my odds-on favorite to host at some point this season. I think it's going to give me the best odds. I think they also have a very good shot of cameoing and appearing in SNL50. So I'm looking for someone who's going to represent all 3 categories here to accumulate some points. And that has to be somebody who would be hosting for their 5th time, and that is Marty Short here. I'm going to take him at the 8th pick overall. I mean, it just makes sense, right? You had Steve and Marty hosting together. The potential of, Ole Murder's in the building, continues to be such a hit. Clearly, there's a very good chance he's going to host, and they want to get some 5-timers action. And how can they not have Marty be a part of the SNL50? So for me, I feel like I covered all my bases here with Marty Short. So,
God damn it!
Why you Marty like you know him?
We're Canadian friends, so we can do that.
You hang out with Catherine O'Hara.
Yeah, sometimes. But Amanda, do you like this pick? Let me go to you on this one then.
I mean, it's a great pick. Like, I'm not, if I were in this position with your logic, yeah, it's a great pick. And he's a go-to guy. He's great whenever he shows up. And I think he's a solid pick. I love it. I'm not mad about it. Never. I'm
mad about it. I'm very mad. Very much.
Stay mad.
You were going to take him on the way back? You took my Tina pick, so.
He was going to be my first until I looked at Tina, and I was like, I feel like Tina's just like a little bit more of a sure thing. But I feel like they're both sure things. Like, you could see Marty showing up, like standing next to Lauren, making Lauren crack up. Like, that's what he did it earlier this season. So that's where my brain went.
I'm mad. I was going to pick him.
Oh, sucks. Okay, let's go to let's go to round number 2 here. We're gonna swing back, and I will start things off. This is gonna get tough because I do feel like the 8 that went in the first round are like the clear 8, and then I feel like we're dropping a tier now to people with some question marks. So I will go for somebody else that I think, because there's a lot of people on this board that I think could potentially host, but I'm thinking about people that would appear in multiple episodes this season, and also definitely be at the 50th. And I think that the person that I feel has the highest odds of doing that, even though they hosted last year, is Kate McKinnon. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to do that. I think that, again, Kate's their biggest modern day star. I know that there's other big names on this board that they could bring back, but I do feel like she lives in New York. I know she could literally like walk over to the building any week they want just for one sketch. So to me, like, I think Kate has to be a part of a couple episodes this season, and you know that they're going to showcase her at the 50th. So I'm feeling good about the Kate pick here to kick off round number 2. Kirstin, let me ask you your thoughts on that pick.
I agree with everything you've said, and you're being, as per usual, extremely strategic in how you're doing this. I think I'm having a lot of fun with it, and you are stacking shit up. So it's fun. You're leveling up my game. It's a smart pick for all those reasons. She will probably host. Yes, she's going to cameo, and yes, she'll be in the 50th. So again, another clutch choice because she's SNL royalty.
I also feel that based on, Bill and I, we've been doing this host countdown all summer long in case you missed it. And like one of the trends we've just noticed is like how many great hosts have hosted like for runs, like just multiple seasons in a row. And I feel like they might be putting Kate on this trajectory where she's going to host like 49, 50, 51, 53, like that type of thing. So that's where I feel like pretty good about this pick. But TJ, we're going to head over to you. You took Tina in the first round. Who's going to be your second pick here at pick number 10?
Let's talk about why Finesse Mitchell. No, I'm kidding. Let's.
My brother, Finesse Mitchell. My last name is Mitchell. For those of you who don't know, understand why that joke is funny, because I am both black and he was on SNL. Also, I used to say that about Cal Mitchell too. So that means Keenan's my cousin.
Hey, you call me your brother.
So I can tell you so many different variations of things. I have my cousin. That's A for TJ. Again, black.
Wait, what's happening?
Who's your pick, TJ?
Oh yeah, okay, all right. Okay, Tim Kazurinsky. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that would be
by
incredible.
the way, I just want to say to our listeners that keep bringing up, finding ways to bring up Tim Kazurinsky to me on Instagram. Why? I know why. I remember why, but honestly, I keep doing it. It's cracking me up, but it's just such a random beat. You're going off of a year-long bit. Okay. All right. Shout out to our listeners. All right. Once again, you guys are dummies. All of you. Kate McKinnon, she's great, actually. She's cool. Honestly, John, you picked the wrong dazzling white lady. Okay? You picked the wrong dazzling white lady. Clearly, you know what's so crazy? Clearly, Kristen Wiig would be more teed up than Kate. I'm not saying who's better. I would never do that. But I think Kristen Wiig is more of a lock. I'm not going to say that. Kristen is great. She's pretty good. But like, I feel like Kristen is definitely more of a lock. And I don't know if it's just because of her time farther away from the show. And when she hosted I think it was this past season, for Palm Royale, I think is when she hosted recently. She was on her I didn't know that Kristen Wiig could get better. She got better when she hosted recently. So like, and she was already like fucking steak sauce. Sorry, A1. I've been rewatching How I Met Your Mother lately. But just for like 2 people who remember that joke from season 1. But
Thank you. I think love How I Met Your Mother.
It's a great show. Yeah,
it's aging very strangely, but yes, it's a great show.
It
all
really
I remember
is
wanting to lick the Liberty Bell. But
yeah, it ages so weird because it still is fun, but it's like, man, some of these are a little dated. Like, but okay, shout out Neil Patrick Harris. Okay, licking the Liberty Bell. Oh man, Victoria was robbed. All right. So what's the ending of that show? All right. I'm sorry. Kristen Wiig, I believe, is more of a lock. They did this beautiful send off for her that like went into like the all time send offs. They don't do that for everybody. They love that woman. She's already in the Five Timers Club. And I would think she's one of, I put her in the league of like, she's not just like one of the all-time SNL greats. I think she's one of the funniest women of all time. I would put her up there with a Carol Burnett. I'd put her up with a Joan Rivers. I'd put her up there. Like I think she's just one of the funniest women of all time. I think you would put her in that list. Also, just want to say I would want to put Amy Poehler on that list, but that's a separate conversation. But no, I just think Kristen Wiig is a bit, it's crazy. I think she's a tiny bit more of a slam dunk than Kate. I think you're only banking on Kate because it's the season after 49, not because it's 50. But it's 50. Yeah. We're talking history of the show. Kate's in that, but she's recent. Kristen Wiig is already a history of the show. So that's why I would pick her.
TJ, that pick was legend. Wait
for it.
Okay, so I agree with all the things you're saying. Kristen was definitely an option for me. Personally, I think that with Kristen having such a big moment and getting that like sort of pseudo Five Timers moment, I feel like she's less likely to host this season than Kate for her second time, and that would be the only reason why I would have picked Kate over Kristen. But overall, still a great pick here and totally makes sense. Sammy, what do you think about TJ's pick here of Kristen Wiig?
I mean, I
excuse me. Excuse me.
Sorry, I didn't think you were gonna call me, so I just was like, I zoned out there for a second because TJ was going on for so long with that pick.
Oh, it's been 4 years. You're used to it already. What are you shocked?
I mean, it's Kristen Wiig. It's Kristen Wiig. I mean, like honestly, she's like an all-time great. But I do. I agree with the decision for John to pick Kate before Kristen for kind of those reasons he laid out. I think you definitely have a better shot at seeing her in some sort of five-timer sketch. Definitely, she has so many characters she can bring back for SNL50. Not somebody that does a ton of political impressions, really. So as far as like, thinking about some of the election coverage and cameos that we could potentially see there. But again, like she's somebody who is in my top 10 or 15 or so picks. So, makes sense that she's going here.
All right, Bill, let's get your second round pick. You chose Eddie in the first round.
Well, first I have to tell TJ that I did meet Tim Kazurinsky this summer, and I did tell him that you said hello. So I had to get that out. I haven't talked to you since I met him. He says hello back.
Deep cut of a bit for this podcast. Such a deep cut of a bit.
I honestly did meet him though. So anyway, yes. Kate is great. Kristen is great. But the show doesn't really lean into bringing alumni back in back-to-back seasons very often. So I'm going with another great lady who just left the show, Cecily Strong, coming back to host at some point this season for sure. Will definitely be at the 50th. It's time. She's the most obvious choice as far as recent alumni to come back who's never hosted. So going with Cecily here.
Yeah, it's a very good pick here with Cecily. I think she is top of the board of people who are alumni who haven't hosted, who could host the show. I would expect that she'll be at the 50th. Now, my big question is, based on what happened this last season where she almost appeared in that Adam Driver episode and backed out of that appearance, and there was a lot of controversy. I know she went on Seth's show and she talked about how that week was like very difficult for her. I think she then since got engaged and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things going on with her in her life. So the question is will we actually get that Cecily episode? I sort of look at it as like a Sudeikis thing of like, will it happen this year? Maybe not. Like maybe it happens 2 years or 3 years down the road and we get this super emotional moment of Cecily finally coming back to the show. But I think it's a very solid pick and you're playing the odds here on Cecily. Haynes, what do you think about Bill's pick here with Cecily Strong?
Well, I'm a huge Cecily fan, and I agree that she is the most obvious choice of recent folks to come back and host. She seems obvious that she would be in the season, in the 50th special, despite the little quirky things kind of going on in the background. She was just such a power player over the last decade. So it's a great pick. I do expect her to be back. And yeah, so I think it's a great pick.
Kirstin, you chose Will Ferrell as your first pick. Who are you going to pick in the second round?
I'm so excited that this person is available because you were talking about her. I think this person is overdue, 10 years overdue, to host, to cameo, and of course will be in the 50th. And I'm talking about Amy Poehler. It's been a while, but she is absolutely, it's her time to come back. If for nothing else, then I need to see, after November, Hillary Clinton get the last laugh.
So it's a good option there with Amy. I love that pick. Obviously, I'm a huge Amy Poehler fan. I'd love to see her host. The fact that she's only hosted twice is egregious.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
yeah. For such a legendary cast member, doesn't make any sense.
No.
Like, well, there's just been so many alumni that we wish we could have gotten more from. Like, let's bring back Amy. So I'm totally on board with that. In SNL50, obviously, she does, Weekend Update with Tina and Jane Curtin. So, like, that was an amazing moment. I have to expect she's going to be a big part of the 50th special. She did cameo 2 seasons ago in the Aubrey Plaza episode. So that was, like, very exciting to see her pop up there. But it is interesting logic. Yes, you did. It was interesting logic, though, because, if they do a Hillary thing, like, wouldn't it be Kate? So I think that would be points to Jon for that. As opposed to...
No. She's the OG, because that's 2016.
I think Amy passed the impression over to Kate McKinnon.
Did. That's okay. She's still my OG because she showed up as the bartender in that sketch too. So she's got to come back. She's got to come back, and I think of her. See, look at me messing up the timeline, but I think of her as the OG Hillary, and I want to see her come in and high five Kamala, her buddy Maya, and
that would be great.
Yeah,
no doubt. I definitely think. Yeah, it would be cool to get all the Hillarys in there. Get Anna. I mean, obviously Jan Hooks is not with us anymore, but I mean, still, like that would have been incredible to do. So there is logic there. Amy could definitely appear. I think it's a very solid pick here from you, Kirstin. Rachel, what do you think about this pick with Amy Poehler here?
I am really stressing out because every time I have my solid next pick, you guys take them away. Absolutely, she's the one. She's the one. I'm kind of surprised that we didn't take her earlier. I thought she would be a first round pick. Political season, yes, like you guys said, she could play several different characters or step in for somebody. I don't know. I feel like she's so versatile that she could step in for some sort of other character that's about to come into our world that we don't even know about yet. I think she's a solid pick and a big enough name that she has both the potential to be a host as well, and will definitely be at the 50th and could also just cameo every now and then.
Okay, Amanda, you picked Adam Sandler 4th overall. You have the 13th overall pick next. So where are you going to go?
I have been thinking about this because I have like a lot of like weird wild cards and like a lot of strange things. And I'm trying to think strategically about what's coming and what's coming out this fall. And I'm ignoring all of that. I'm ignoring all of my instincts because my instinct here, because I think of the actual likelihood of it happening, is between 2 people. But I'm going to go right here and y'all are going to be like, why? Stay with me here. I'm going to go with Molly Shannon. Because another beloved SNL female cast member who comes back, comes back ever so often, hosted a few years ago, can't remember. Time is flat.
2 seasons ago.
Thank you. I think I was on that episode. God, time is flat. But like, yeah, so I think it's a great option. And I conversed with Morocco and I asked her and she said yes. So yeah, I think that's a great pick. Cameos, we can get appearances. They'll find something for her to do. They always do.
Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, I think we're definitely going to see Molly at some point during SNL50. She has hosted recently enough that, she could come back and host again. So for me, I think this is a super solid pick from you. Bill, what do you think of the Molly Shannon pick here to Amanda?
Yeah, I think the Molly episode a couple seasons ago was really, really good. It had been a long time since we had seen her. She is definitely a slam dunk to be at the special for sure. It is hard to say whether she'll host or not, but I mean, you can always get a cameo. I mean, we're all holding out hope, right? This is the whole point of this, that we're going to get a lot of alumni cameos in weird places this year. So I think she is one of those people we could definitely see a lot of.
Yeah, and we saw her do Mary Catherine Gallagher during the Jimmy and Justin opening for SNL40. So, that could be another situation where we would see her pop up briefly at some point during that special. All right, Sammy, you've had a long wait to get back to you. You picked Dana Carvey, third overall. So who is your second pick?
Okay. A lot of people on my list just went. So I've been kind of, if you could see in my face, a little stressed out over here. But I'm feeling pretty good about picking this person. They were brought up in the conversation just recently. Somebody who, if you're looking at, since we started this podcast, somebody who had an amazing episode of SNL, someone who long anticipated, wanting to see them come back and host, has political impressions, has characters, is still very active in the work they do outside of SNL. I'm going with Jason Sudeikis here for my second pick. I think there's potential to see, a farewell to Biden at some point. And obviously he brought back Biden, when he came back to host. Would just love to see him host another episode. And I really think the reaction to that hosting appearance he made a few seasons back maybe reinvigorated his love for the show and his relationship with the show. So I'm going with Sudeikis here.
Yeah, I like the pick here. I mean, especially now with Ted Lasso potentially coming back for season 4. I guess it is coming back, but there's some talks about, Jason's involvement in it. But clearly had one of the best episodes and one of my favorite episodes we've ever talked about here on the podcast. And I think one of the best episodes in recent years. It would make sense if he wants to do it. I think they'll have him. As far as having him in SNL40, I mean, to me it's a shoe-in. You have to have Sudeikis at some point there. I think during SNL40 we got him as during the musical acts special thing. We did the him dancing as Vance, and then also did the ESPN guys with Will Forte during going into some sports highlights. So a couple points there makes sense. They have to have Jason, especially as big of a star as he's become outside of the show. They're going to want to highlight him there. TJ, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Jason Sudeikis going to Sammy here, pick number 14?
He's my favorite white man to wear a red jumpsuit, to wear a red to wear a red tracksuit. Honestly though, I don't think this is Sammy's best pick. I'm actually a little and you know what? I actually don't mean this as an attack, but I honestly I think there were other more sure things to make, given the work that it felt like to get him in the building. I'm not saying that he was resistant, but it almost to me feels like another certain big SNL player that if any of us picked him, it's like, does this person want to do it? I feel like it's 50. There's something special about it, so it's much more. It's likely, so I don't think it's a bad pick. We would all want it because we think he's incredible. He's fantastic, incredibly talented. Again, best white man in a red jumpsuit, red tracksuit I've ever seen. But all seriousness aside, there's another couple. There's actually, when you look at the list of players and options we have here, I'm sure that I'm not the only SNN person that looked at this and was like, would this person want to come back? There are people that were wondering, would they even have the temperament or the coolness with the show to do it? And I think Jason has a good relationship. But I'm wondering if he thinks he's kind of closed the book. Is it like a Donald Glover closing Childish Gambino kind of chapter? I don't know. Something about it feels like potential, and he was there, but is it likely? I have a lot of doubt with that pick.
Can I retort?
Okay. Yes, of course. Go ahead.
Why are you asking? I interrupt react all
the
time.
Very quickly, I want to say, coming almost out of the second round here, some of these people aren't going to host, and you just gotta accept that. Maybe they don't host, but we are speculating maybe Keenan's last season. So I do think we will see a what up with that. Sometime throughout the season. That's a guaranteed sort of slam dunk pick there for a cameo. So I'm feeling good about this, despite what you said.
No. And by the way, I'm not only thinking about this as who are likely hosts. To be honest, I'm thinking mostly about the cameos and the specials, because that's hey, Kate, can you pull up here, as opposed to giving up a week of time. I think we're much more likely with those spots than to get somebody hosting for a week. And I would, because I think
we're definitely getting to that point now of the draft.
Yeah.
So
would Jason be filming Ted Lasso? Would it be a location thing that he wouldn't even be able to do in the first place? I feel like I feel like he would have more obstacles than like some of our other picks. Again, not a critique, because I was thinking about it my own choice. Like,
You
should I
suck,
pick it
Sammy.
myself? Yeah.
All right. In the first round, we saw Rachel pick Maya Rudolph, second overall. So let's see who she adds to her team. Here.
I think this is where my lack of draft picking strategy is going to fall short. I'm going to go with one. I think I'm going to go with this one that I feel like I understand logistically why it's very unlikely, but I think it will get me at least 1 point, which is probably not a good strategy to go with. Seth Meyers. He doesn't have far to go. He just has to take a few footsteps from 8G to 8H. I understand he has his own show. It probably is not going to drop by on Saturday nights very often. There has to be something weekend update on the 50th. So there's no way he's not going to be part of the 50th. He hasn't hosted since season 44, if I have that right. So it's been a minute. And he did have the show at the time, if I have that math right too. So it's possible. So maybe he's due for another hosting duty. He's obviously still a friend of the show, so he's right there, right next door.
Yeah, I think this is a really solid pick here, Rachel, honestly. I think the value is very good to get Seth here at 15. I don't think he's going to host. That would be my only thing. But I do think that there's a chance that he pops up clearly as, I always look at him as the quarterback of that third golden era. And I think that if there's going to be, as Sammy said, like a big goodbye to Keenan, or there's going to be others from his era that are going to pop up, I could see Seth popping up for something. He'll definitely be in SNL50 at some point. I believe we did see him with some of the other Weekend Update guys during that point in SNL40. So I have to imagine he'll be a part of it, and certainly will be writing a majority of, SNL50, or at least be a part of, has his hand in the cookie jar in every sketch there. So yeah, I think this is a great pick from you, Rachel, over here. Kirstin, I'd love to know your thoughts on Rachel's pick here with Seth.
I love that we're starting to get interesting choices, because the first batch were going to be kind of obvious. So now we're starting to get interesting, and it exposes both our personal preferences, like who we're just fans of, and some strategy. So could be a bit of both or one or the other. He is so close, and he's clearly, like, if you've listened to any of his podcasts, all buddies. They're all friends. He's in the trust tree. So it makes sense that he'll be around. I agree that I'm not sure that he'll host, but you could probably score some nice points outside of the hosting categories.
All right, Haynes, you've waited a long time to come back to your second pick, and you're going to have back-to-back picks here. So let's get your first pick, which will end the second round of the draft.
Yeah. So, something that is very similar to the spot that you're in, John, is you get all this time to formulate a great set of draft picks, and then you just get to watch every single one just fall off the board. I am really glad that Rachel took Seth Meyers, because I actually think he's a very solid pick. And I was like, I'm gonna feel so stupid if I have to take late night hosts back to back. Like, I wanted to have a better team than just going straight late night hosts. And I actually think he was a really good pick. So yeah, we're getting to the point where, listen, man, oh man, I think I think there's some folks on here who are like still, considered like some of the best of all time, and you might want to have them come back and host an episode. But of course, I'm thinking about, folks who are going to cameo and who like to pop in. I think that as integral to the show as she was, and we've talked about Kate and we've talked about Cecily, I just think a lot of people would love to have Aidy Bryant back. And I could see her hosting. I think we'll definitely see her at other times, but I'm going to go ahead and say Aidy for this round. Because I think she has a pretty fair shot at it. There's someone else on the tip of my tongue, but I have to hold it in because I'm not sure if I'm going to make them the first pick of my third round or not.
Yeah, so let's start with Aidy. So Aidy, obviously, we have not seen since she left the show a couple of years ago. Clearly, is very well familiar with Kate McKinnon, and the potential of seeing the two of them back together at some point during the season would make sense to me, especially seeing them in a sketch. And I think that Aidy has that thing of like, when she was on the show for so long, I think, probably a little underappreciated. And then as time has gone on, we sort of haven't seen her or seen her pop up in any way in an SNL form. I think people are starting to clamor for some 80 Bryants. Just, if she popped into an episode, even if it wasn't the 50th season, I think everyone would be very excited about it. So a great pick. It makes sense. This is a modern pick. So you definitely check a lot of boxes here, potentially. Amanda, I'd love to know from you your thoughts on 80 Bryant going to Haynes here to finish the second round.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I think it's a really strong one and very likely. We're also just more likely to get more recent cast members back than older ones. I'm of the belief because times are a-changing and things are different now for some people, if you know what I mean.
Definitely. All right, Haynes, you have the next pick to kick off our third round of the draft. So 17 overall. Where are you going to go?
So now I'm thinking about those cameos, thinking about popping up in some sketches when they just need, just have a fun surprise, which we'll expect a lot of throughout this season, as well as someone who can do a lot. And I've been kind of rolling around two really funny kind of character comedians who can just do a million impressions and a million different characters, a million different tones, kind of land wherever they need to in a sketch. And I think between the two of them, I'm going to pick, because this person also spends a lot of time at 30 Rock. I think I'm going to go with Mr. Fred Armisen.
Very good pick here with Fred Armisen, who has pretty much cameoed in every season since he's left the show. So this is not, it wouldn't be surprising at all to see him pop up. Was recently in the building as, Seth said goodbye to his band, unfortunately. And, so no longer has that gig over there, still tours and is in like a million projects. But Fred is somebody that I think, like, money on the board, he's going to pop up somewhere in season 50, even if it's just for like Bad Bunny's episode and then they, have him in a pre-tape. Like, that's the type of thing. So I love the pick here of Fred Armisen. Kirstin, what do you think about Fred going to Haynes here at 17?
Oh, I'm pissed. I have it all queued up. That was my pick. So great. Good job. You're right. He cameos and everything. And that's exactly where my head was at, is he doesn't even just show up on SNL. He cameos for anything and everyone. I've seen him in music videos recently. Like, he is, he'll be there for you. Let's put it that way. So I think it's a super smart choice. And that's where you're going to get a whack of points in the cameo category. And I'm extremely jealous. And every time you get one, I'm going to curse your name.
That's not the first time I've been cursed today, guys. Take it easy.
Oh my God. Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, Haynes has to be there for us to give him the curse. So hopefully you will be. All right. Your team right now is Jimmy, 80, and Fred. Rachel, you have Maya and Seth. So who will be the next addition to your team?
Oh gosh, I have just jumped between three very different people for three very different choices. One was more of a passion project, not passion, a passion pick for anything, but I think I'm going to go a little bit more safe. And I don't think anyone's picked Will Forte yet. Is that right?
No, nobody has. But yes.
Oh, you can hear the sadness in his voice.
Yeah, no.
Jon is devastated right now. He is so trying so hard not to play it. He is oh my God, I've never felt or shame child. Like, oh my God.
It's a kid who got their ball taken away. Like, it's like, I don't want to play anymore. Like,
no, I mean, look, I'll be happy for you if Forte shows up and you get those points. Because honestly, he hosted once a few years ago, a very weird episode that he hosted, but like clearly just like to get him back in the building was like, I felt like jump started the engine of like, oh yeah, like Forte, we just got to keep him around. Everybody loves him. Everyone at the show right now is like so excited when he comes back. So when he was there as part of the Kristen Wiig episode earlier this season, I mean, that was just like so fantastic. So for me, it would make sense to get him out there at some point as a cameo. Could he host again? I think we would all be thrilled if he did. But he will definitely be a part of SNL50 in some sense. So I just think it's a solid pick across the board here. Love the Forte pick. Bill, how do you feel about it here at 18?
Yeah, I mean, this is the podcast that Jon is waiting to do, because he wants to be on that hot take show for the Forte redemption story, because that hosting episode, you're being kind just calling it weird. It was out of control. It didn't make any sense. The entire structure of the show was blown up, and it didn't do justice to one of the all-time SNL cast
Isn't it
members.
fitting though?
A little, yeah, but not in the way that we had hoped, right? So I think if he comes back, we get more of a regular hosting gig, and we get some good cameos in there. That would be fantastic. So, I mean, Forte's an all-timer. That would be great.
And I do have to shout out, part of the reason I went with this pick is because I know it's what Ellis Mitchell would pick. And this is in honor of him bringing me into this fold. He is such a Will Forte fan, always rooting for him. But just the fact that he's around, he'll pop in, I think is the... Admittedly, I had to scroll way down. I had him hidden in the bottom and almost didn't see him.
He actually lives in Tom Davis's old space where he did Saturday Night Live. So
in the bunker near the monologue stage.
Yeah. He just drinks a lot of Poland Spring, just like a ton of Poland Springs.
Yes, he does.
Didn't think I knew that, did you, huh?
All right, Sammy, you have Dana and Jason as your picks so far. So who will get added to your team at pick number 19?
All right. I'm very curious to see what you guys think of this pick, because I think it's a bit of a risk, because if you objectively look at this person's time as a cast member on the show, I do not think you would say, oh, they're an all-time great cast member, but I do think they're an all-time great, like, funny person, comedic legend, a force in comedy, who happens to have a really big movie coming out in May of next year. And we've seen a theme of people in Marvel movies, taking a lot of hosting spots throughout SNL seasons in recent years. So I'm going with Julia Louis-Dreyfus for my next pick here. Somebody who, doesn't have a ton of recurring characters that they can necessarily bring back on the show, but is still a huge star. And I mean, you saw recently with everything going on with the election, the Veep resurgence. I could totally see a sketch with Maya as Kamala and Selena Meyer, in a cold open or something like that. I don't think she was a big part of SNL40, but she met her husband on SNL. So there's so many things here to where I feel really good about this pick.
Very good pick here with JLD going at 19. Great value. Someone who's hosted the show 3 times. Bill and I went back and watched these episodes over the summer to talk about them. So much better than I had remembered them. Like, she's a very, very solid host of the show. It would be fascinating to see her come back and host again. Obviously, it would be interesting also to see how they would celebrate her. I don't think she appeared at all in SNL40. She certainly was there and in the audience, but I don't think she appeared at all. So I could see them, course correcting there and having her at some point. But this is a great pick. And Amanda, clearly you were annoyed about the pick.
That was literally that what they just said was my logic. I'm so mad. Like,
great minds think alike.
Like, I literally had to double check when Thunderbolts was coming out. I just looked it up on IMDb because I was like, well, that's right. It's right there. She's everywhere right now. She also lives in New York. She's here all the time. So that was a devastating, I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover in the next, let's talk in the 48 to 72 hours to see if I'm okay. But right now I am devastated to my core and may never, ever, ever get over this.
Well, we're going to need you to, because you have a pick coming up. You took Adam Sandler and Molly Shannon in their first 2 rounds. And now with the 20th overall pick, you have somebody to choose from. So go ahead, Amanda.
Well, my logic was also going to be, I was going to do the Nepo Baby Olympics because there was another cast member who also is doing a lot of things and is hoping to win an Emmy Award and may or may not have won a major award earlier on this year. And obviously is probably one of my picks for people to be reminded that, hey, he was there for a second, but nobody thinks of him as a former SNL cast member. I'm not going to say him by name because I'm not picking him, because I'm picking somebody else who's always there, who, if TJ says that Tina Fey is pushing a cart outside of Rockefeller Center, Rachel Dratch is in that cart. And I'm picking Rachel Dratch because that is our cameo queen. That is if you need somebody to play something a little offbeat, ring, ring, ring. Hey girl, what you up to? She's like, I'll be there. I'm going to drop the kids at daycare. I'll be there. No problem. The casting of her as Ray Gun from the Olympics, I still maintain was one of the best best casting moments we've seen in television in the past year. I love this woman. I am thrilled to have her on my team after I had my other favorite woman snatched from me from Rachel and Sammy. So I'm here to say, yeah, Rachel Dratch. She's my girl.
I love the pick. I mean, this is like sort of a Fred Armisen-esque pick where there's a good chance that she will pop up somewhere. Obviously has a lot of friends who are also alumni who may put her in some sketches. So I think this makes sense. She did cameo a lot over the last few years. She did the whole like Amy Klobuchar, act. And then, for me, I think she's such a good friend of the show. Appeared as Debbie Downer in SNL50 as well. So this is somebody who I could definitely see coming back to the show at some point soon. From one Rachel to another, Rachel Chang, what do you think of this pick?
Oh, I thought everybody would forget about her because she was actually the one that I was going between her and Will, and I thought, oh, I'll save her for the next round. So amazing pick. Agreed. She's just always there. There's so many times where I'm just like, oh, who's that familiar face in the background? Oh my God, it's Rachel again. And so I think it was very smart pick.
Yeah, love the pick here from you, Amanda. So your team right now is Sandler, Molly Shannon, and Rachel Dratch. Kirstin, you have Will Ferrell and Amy Poehler, a couple of powerhouses. So who will be your third pick here at pick number 21?
Another powerhouse. This pick is more about someone who I don't know if they'd host, but I'm just such a fan that I need this person on my roster. And I do think they will cameo, and I do think they'll be involved in the 50th. They're a formidable impressionist. And so they've done a ton of different characters and impressions, and that's Bill Hader.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I mean, I'm surprised that Bill lasted this long, honestly, in this draft, because Bill Hader has hosted twice. Obviously, a lot has come out over the last few years about his hesitancy to return to the show because he spoke about, some of his anxieties while being a cast member, and if he wanted to put himself through that again. With the success of Barry, I think a lot of the mainstream audience has come around on realizing how great Bill Hader is, so much so that he was voted by our audience as the greatest cast member ever last year. So I think that the show knows how much people love Bill Hader and maybe will try and see if there's a chance that he hosts. So I think if we're at the point of the draft now where we're not just picking people who will show up in SNL50, but also may appear in the season, I think Bill Hader here is a very solid choice. So Haynes, what do you think about the Hader pick to Kirstin here?
Well, he was right on the tip of my tongue before I picked A.D. Bryant. I was thinking a lot about Bill Hader. And like you said, I know particularly, the younger generation of SNL fans, like you said, a lot of people think consider him the greatest cast member of all time. And I love him. I don't quite put him in that spot, but I am blown away by what an incredible talent he is. So yeah, I mean, it's a good pick. Absolutely. And we'll see where he pops up. Definitely at least season 50. I hope we get some cameos too.
All right, Bill, you chose Eddie Murphy and Cecily Strong with your first two picks. So who will you pick in the third round?
Y'all are so adorable picking people who are going to do cameos and might show up at the big 50th anniversary. You're leaving this incredible host on the board who's definitely possible to come back. He was the host of the very first SNL Stats podcast. Of course, I'm talking about the legendary Christopher Rock.
Oh my God, I can't believe this person lasted this long. I had him at the top of my board and I knew this was going to happen. I knew that Bill was going to grab him because this to me is like the perfect pick. And I was just praying that he would come back to me, and he almost did. But yes, I think that Chris Rock has a really good chance of hosting during this season. He is, Amanda, when you said that you referenced somebody else that is always in the building, Chris Rock is always at Saturday Night Live. Even if you don't see him on screen, he just like hangs out there backstage. So to me, like the chances of him just popping up in an episode, he's definitely going to be in SNL50 introducing something. Again, one of a weirdest cast member tenures ever, but because of his success outside the show and the amount of times that he's been brought back since then, this is a slam dunk pick for me. So Sammy, what do you think about the Chris Rock pick here?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a great pick. Honestly, I was debating between Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Chris Rock for my last pick here. And in some ways, you can actually, the way I was describing them, both people who are comedy legends who, their time on the show, wasn't the most successful. So a legendary stand-up. We have not seen him, at least we haven't seen him host. I'm not sure we've seen him cameo since the slap. So honestly, that was a huge cultural moment. And I think it would be weird if we never, saw him return and, after that moment. So yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely a good chance we'll see a lot of him this season.
Can I jump in on this?
Yes.
Chris Rock, absolutely one of the greatest stand-ups of all time. Absolutely, at least of the modern era. If you have him host, absolute crush of a monologue, right? It's going to destroy, right? He's so good. Consistently terrible sketch actor. Even when he shows up like just a cameo, like so bad in sketches. So that's the one thing that has held me back from calling out Chris Rock's name. But I know that it's never wise to second guess a Bill Kenney pick. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick mostly because, and I tend to agree with you, but I think that a couple of things. One, like if Chappelle was to host again after the election, then, Chris Rock, would he appear in that episode? Like, I think there's a high likelihood of that. And then I remember the story about, during COVID, our first episode of SNL Stats that we ever did here, when I heard that Michael Che and Colin Jost, who were head writers at the time, literally went to Chris Rock's door and were like asking him to come and host that first episode coming back, during COVID. So like the admiration that I think that the cast and crew have for him just makes me think that they're going to want to get him involved somehow because of that, regardless of how we feel about a sketch performance. I just think it's a great pick. So yeah, there you go. So Bill has Eddie Murphy, Cecily Strong, and Chris Rock on his team. Very solid team he's building over there. Another very solid team is TJ, who has Tina and Kristen Wiig so far. Who will be your third pick, TJ?
Let's just get it out the gate. Like Tina and Kristen, powerhouse. Powerhouse. I want to see them in 2000s tracksuits fighting crime, like the two of them together. Now let's get somebody who I think would be a fun plucky pick. And I'll be honest, I was trying to find people, so I'm pretty sure I missed Amanda's pick. So I don't know if this person got taken.
Well, let me just tell you, Amanda picked Rachel Dratch.
Oh no, I did get her pick. Who did Sammy pick?
Sammy picked JLD.
JLD.
I picked Tim Kazurinsky.
Okay. Shut up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you guys so much. Okay, sorry. No, I was like trying to like type out more options because I'm running out. Like I wrote so many names. I wrote like what 30 names, and I'm out of so many of them. Okay, so I definitely was like out there, but I'm a little surprised that there's an individual here that I hope to God I did not dissociate through this person's name being said. I'm shocked we haven't said this name. This person is in the modern day. You want to talk about modern day influences on SNL? You think of this person and their band of merry friends. Some would say that they're lonely, but I would say that they're not actually. They have lots of friends. They're on a podcast right now with Seth Meyers, and this person is plucky. He's lovable. He's like the puppy version of a comedian. Like he's like the puppy Amanda had on Scream. The little dog. I don't like a lot of dogs, but that little dog Amanda has is adorable. I like the little fluffy ones. They're very cute. Andy Samberg is the fluffy white dog of SNL. Now, granted, he's a grown man, but like he's cute. He's funny. And honestly, he's had a big influence on like guys like me, Sammy, John, like guys our age, like bringing us into SNL through the digital age, which is a huge thing. The fact that I love the stories I'm hearing on their podcast where they're talking about at one point Lauren Michaels organization. The one point Lauren basically put a laminate card of a digital sort. Like they were just pumping out so much, even though it wasn't that great sometimes, that it become a staple of the show. The things that they did to the pre-tape, the way they influenced current day SNL with the Please Don't Destroy Boys, or the way that like pre-tapes, even though I've always been a part of SNL, I feel like they've just been such a slam dunk these past like 15 years. I would credit to Andy Samberg and his team, of course, like coming onto SNL. He opened up the 40th. Lauren has a little band of white boys that he loves very, very much. Okay, Chevy, Martin, like he's a band of like white boys. Pete, Andy, Seth. He's Colin, a band of white kids that he loves. And Andy's in that list. The only thing that would keep Andy there is if he has to watch his kids, because that man is a father. All right, a father. But if we can get that schedule worked out, baby, if Lauren can get it on his calendar, send the Outlook invite, please. Put Andy Samberg in the show, because he's stated ever since he did the Natalie rap, ever since he did the second Natalie rap, he's like, the show could ask us to do anything and we would do it. We just have to make sure it works out for our schedule. So they want to be there. Lauren loves them. Why wouldn't you pick Andy Samberg? He's going to do something really fun that we're all just going to have a good time and enjoy. Plus, he doesn't have to host, which he might not love. So I think it's likely that we will see Andy Samberg in the 50th.
Very good pick here from you, TJ, who I think, Andy's somebody who I think I could squint and see an outside chance that he hosts this season. I think there was, I'm looking at my list
so much.
I'm looking at my list of alumni that I've left on the board. I can squint and maybe see 3 people, including Andy, that I think have a realistic shot and not a fan service shot of hosting this season. So I think he's one of those guys that's left on the board. Clearly will do something as part of SNL50. Could it be the PDD versus TLI thing that we've been talking about?
Don't. It's too much.
It's
like,
can
you imagine if they did? Oh, sorry.
Could happen. That's what we've all been asking for. So definitely could see Andy Samberg returning to the show at this point. Sammy, let's get your thoughts on TJ's pick here of Andy Samberg.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. I've been enjoying it. Such a nice treat on Monday mornings to start my day. And I do think that the fact that he is going back and revisiting some of these older, shorts that they produced, like all the way back in the mid 2000s, I think, maybe will influence him to make additional appearances on the show this season. Like, I mean, somebody who doesn't have a ton of impressions, but Nick Cage is making a bit of resurgence. That's one of my favorite impressions of all time. And That's When You Break digital short from SNL40 is like that's a classic moment from that special. And I would be very surprised if we don't see at least one digital short appearance, whether it be in SNL50 the special or throughout the season. So definitely a solid pick here.
Also, I just want to add to it. In the most recent episode of the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast, they did confirm that they are currently working on new music. And one thing I thought was interesting enough note is that when Andy, I hope I have this right. I'm pretty sure that at the end of the season that was in 2014 or 2015, whenever Popstar was coming out.
It's 2016.
Thank you. When Popstar was coming out, I don't think it was the same episode that Andy was hosting, because I want to say it was like a year prior. But they put they put a digital short. Yes, and they made it like the digital short, like the one that like they took a clip from the movie, like a music video, and put it in the episode. And yes, they made it work because like Fred happened to be in that one. But I'm pretty sure Lauren doesn't always do that. There have been a myriad of SNL projects, but like how many like does Lauren promote when the person is not hosting the show? So like for them to like promote Popstar, even if Lauren is producing the movie, he's produced a ton of things. So he clearly has a high investment in these boys and like cares about them and thinks they're integral to the history of the show. And so I think it's such, I don't even want to say it's a slam dunk, but I think it's such an easy win to put Andy in the show, to have him show up there. Also, shout out to more Lonely Island music,
that Finest Girl digital short from the Fred episode is a great one. And it's one that we don't talk about because it was not part of their cast tenure, but it's really, really solid.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when I took my first 2 picks with Marty and Kate, I was thinking about people that can fit in all 3 categories. I don't think that there's anybody left on the board that I think like could fit in all 3 at this point, but I think I could like squint and maybe see somebody who can either host or cameo and will definitely be at the 50th. So I have two of these people who I feel pretty good about. Doesn't really matter the order, but I will end the 3rd round and then start the 4th round. So I'm going to start here just for fun with somebody who should have been a very big part of SNL40, but couldn't be there because of an unfortunate accident that happened around that time. And I'm going to pick Tracy Morgan here to finish the third round. Somebody who's hosted the show twice. The show loves him. He just recently cameoed a few years back in the Kieran Culkin episode. So he's around. And I think he's still like really good. Obviously, has that Tina Fey connection. Obviously is very well around the building. And I think he could pop up this season. And yeah, I mean, it would be really fun to see him host for the first time since season 41. So I'm going to go with Tracy Morgan for pick number 24 to finish off the third round of the draft. Bill Kenney, what do you think of that pick?
I love it, man. I think he's going to get you pregnant now. I think that'll be what happens. Tracy is like
what a line! What a catchphrase!
Honest to God, what a story this guy has had. Didn't get enough play. I mean, he got more play on the show than Rock did, but they didn't know what to do with him a lot of times. He obviously had some really good characters that he brought later on, but his post SNL career, being on 30 Rock, coming back to the show. And as you mentioned, not being able to be part of 40 and them having that really emotional moment where Baldwin and Tina come out and talk about him during the 40th and to have that moment of him. I think there's a good possibility that we see him. I don't know if he'll host, but he'll definitely cameo, I would think, and he'll definitely be at the 50th as well.
All right, so that takes us to the end of the third round of the draft. Let me go through the teams right now so far. So we have Haynes with Jimmy, 80, and Fred. Rachel has Maya, Seth, and Forte. Sammy has Dana, Sudeikis, and JLD. Amanda has Sandler, Molly, and Jarach. Kirstin has Will Ferrell, Amy Poehler, and Bill Hader. Bill has Eddie, Cecily, and Chris Rock. TJ has Tina, Kristen Wiig, and Andy Samberg. And I have Marty, Kate McKinnon, and Tracy Morgan. All right, let's continue with the fourth round of the draft. 2 more rounds to go. And I don't know if this is somebody that I want to take, but I feel like this is somebody I have to take. And TJ alluded to it earlier as, Lorne has this group of people that are his people. And I feel like this is Lorne Michaels' son, basically. And he brings him to the show. He takes care of him. And I think that we're going to see Pete Davidson again sometime this season. Like I said, if there was one person left on the board who I think has a realistic chance of coming back to host in season 50, it is Pete. I don't think he's going to host the premiere because he did last year, but it could be towards the end of the season. He'll definitely be in the 50th anniversary special, and it's very easy for him to cameo. He's nearby all the time, and still one of the biggest stars in the world outside of the show. So for me, this to me is like a no-brainer pick to continue my draft with Pete Davidson here at pick number 25. Amanda, what do you think of that pick?
I say go ahead, because as long as he's employed, he's not terrorizing women. So, cool.
Well, anyway, don't get me wrong. I like Pete, but I also just think he is probably limited in his range. And there's other people on this list that I actually would much rather see appear or host during season 50. I'm just trying to gather some points here.
These are all it's at this point, it's just about who the actual likelihood, rather not.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and I want to win.
You can say Horatio's name. It's okay, Amanda.
I don't think we can. I
was thinking about El King's father, but
yeah, I don't think we're allowed.
Who is El King?
The same last name as me, but yes. Let's my long lost cousin.
Look it up.
Yeah.
Tim Kazurinsky.
Yeah,
again.
yes. The first name that has 3 letters in it.
You bring up Tim Kazurinsky one more time.
Okay.
You say his name enough, Paul Tier.
Okay, she's a singer. Oh, Rob Schneider?
Yes. Yes. All right. I don't think we're going to see anybody making copies at some point this season. Let's go to TJ next for his fourth pick. He has Tina, Kristen, and Andy on the board. TJ, who are you going to pick?
I'm so mad because Rob Schneider was going to be my next bit of who I was going to fake pick. So, what I'm actually more annoyed by is that Pete was my next pick. I was I'm shocked because if you honestly, you could have put Pete in the first round of a slam dunk. Not that you want. We like Pete, but it's young man,
Oh, don't get me wrong. The value on
respect to
Pete, I
elders
would
is what we're saying. Yeah.
the value on Pete, I would have taken in the third round, but I just would be more excited to see Tracy, so I picked him in the third versus Pete. But yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
You made a good strategic choice. But yeah, no, I'm very surprised by this. I'm not surprised because I was like, oh, good, I'm gonna get Pete too. It's like I don't know. Okay, so here's my tough thing. Let's keep talking about white men because we don't talk about them enough. All right, I'm here to give a spotlight to Amanda. Well, and Amanda and I are both dating white people, so we can't say nothing. But okay, no, it is what it is. No, I'm picking on my
white woman right now.
Oh, that dog is adorable. Okay,
that is not a woman.
Is the dog? Okay. All right. Sorry.
Haynes has a weird thing about animals. He does like pig stuff.
To her face.
Yeah. Actually, John, I do have a call out. There is somebody on the list who no, I can't make the bit yet. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm a big fan of Community. Huge fan. My favorite TV show. There's a Childish Gambino poster right behind me. You've been watching me on this podcast for a while. You've seen it many times. All right. I'm somebody who, I think there's somebody I'm thinking about that is integral to the show, but is such my Alexa just went off, sorry, but is such a jerk. Like he's just known to be just a jerk. But let's be honest.
Pierce?
Yeah, and he's so crazy. Actually, I like Pierce's character. I think he works for what Community is, but as it does point. I would like to go with this person because when it comes down to it, he still was attached to the vitality of the show. He still appeared, I think, in that 5-timer sketch with Timberlake back in 2011. And I want to say we've had at least one other Chevy cameo since then. But actually, Bill, am I wrong on that? Have we had at least one more? Chevy?
He was in the 40th, but I don't remember him being on the show.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. The 40th. Yes, the 40th. Okay. So it's because of that. It's because of Chevy's reputation that I think just gets worse and worse. Like for people going for it, you think I'm going to zig? I'm going to zag to Aykroyd because even though Aykroyd is going to be making martinis in the 5-timers lounge, he's one of the original Blues Brothers. He's one of the original cast. There's I don't want to say there's a big left for him, but like I feel like there's less drama than there is with Chevy from a more mainstream eye. I don't know if Aykroyd might have some stuff within the SNL fandom, but I don't think there's as much like when people think Chevy Chase, they think like the negative that also comes with him.
I'm so confused. Who are you picking?
I'm picking Dan Aykroyd. I'm picking Dan Aykroyd. That is who I'm picking because I think it is more likely that Dan Aykroyd will show up.
Yeah. The zigzag is my move, though. TJ, that's my move.
Okay. All right. So officially. Yeah. Officially.
It's like Zendaya and Challengers.
Yes. That's exactly what this is. So Dan Aykroyd is the pick here. So we go 25 picks before we get an original cast member coming off the board here with Danny going to TJ at pick number 26, somebody who Bill Kenney interviewed and is up now on our YouTube channel. So you can see our interview with Dan Aykroyd from last week with the Blues Brothers convention. And, Bill, based on your conversation with Dan Aykroyd, what are the chances you think we may see him at the 50th?
Unless he has the best poker face in the history of the world, I'd say 0%, because that was one of the things I posed to him. I've been touting this idea of the entire original cast that's still with us hosting one episode. And I mentioned that to him, and he just kind of, he wants to put it on to the next generation. So he didn't even really seem that interested in being at the 50th special, which I think he'll be at. I can't imagine Lorne won't, make sure that happens. But, I would have, TJ, this would have been my pick 2 weeks ago before I talked to Dan. Like he seems like the obvious choice. He had a great hosting gig back in 2003-ish. He did all of those Goodman episodes in the late 90s, early 2000s, where he was basically a pseudo host. He's one of the all-time classics, but I don't think he'll do it, unfortunately.
Sure, I should have watched that interview. I'm behind.
Yeah, so I think this is a fair pick though, because I do think that right now we're at the point of people where we're starting to think about, okay, who's going to be at SNL 50 in February, and I think that this is a very solid pick here because Aykroyd, I despite what he says, he will be there. He's still in good shape. He's, the type of guy that, like, again, one of the most celebrated cast members ever. I don't think you do a 50th anniversary celebration without trying to get every original cast member there somewhere. I just don't know if we're going to see him in the rest of the season beyond that. So that's the only thing. But Bill Kenney, you have Eddie Murphy, Cecily Strong, and Chris Rock on your team, and you have the 27th overall pick coming up right now.
Well, kind of in the same vein as where TJ was going here, I think there has to be an episode where an original cast member or original era cast member hosts. So you look at the list and it's pretty small. TJ talked about Chevy. I don't think that's going to happen. Jane has never hosted, although that would be amazing to see. Lorraine and Garrett's heading towards 90, like probably not going to happen. I think the only logical choice for original era is Bill Murray. So I'm going to go with Bill here. He hasn't hosted in 25 years, so that's the caveat, but he's done a lot of cameos. He was on in 2016 with the Cubs, and then Steve Bannon during the unfortunate cameo era of SNL. I think that's the only choice I have. And he'll definitely be at the 50th, right? I mean, he opens the 25th. So
I'm surprised by this, Bill. I'm surprised that you didn't pick Lorraine because I feel like she's still very sharp, very game, very funny. So I'm very surprised.
The thing is, like, if we're looking at it logically, Lorraine and Jane co-hosting an episode would be the dream, right? I mean, that's these two underrated women of SNL who have never hosted. It's insane. 50 years in. It's insane. But looking at the logic of what Lauren has done over the years, I would think that Bill would be the choice. But I agree with you.
That makes sense. I get what you mean. I was just surprised.
Yeah, I do think, Lorraine definitely, we had her in the Californians, so there's a potential that she could sort of like stretch and do something different. But I think that Bill Murray has been so integral to the anniversary shows. He did Jaws last time, that it was so good that I think that everyone's like excited to see what Bill Murray might do at the 50th special. And because he has popped up, over the last few years, or at least in the last like 10 years, I think there's a decent shot that we could see him jump in somewhere. Again, so important to the history of the show. So for me, this makes sense over here. Kirstin, I'm going to continue with you now. You had picked Will Ferrell, Amy Poehler, and Bill Hader. So who is your fourth pick?
This pick is maybe a little bit of wishful thinking, but someone who I hope will join the party because they've tended to stay out of the party, and that's Daryl Hammond. I don't think he'll host, but I think he could cameo, whether appearance or voice, and I think he absolutely would be in the 50th. And my wishful thinking is that he jumps in with both feet and we get all the Daryl Hammond we can get.
Yeah, it's a really good pick here. I mean, this is great value for Daryl here at pick number 28, who is the announcer of the show, so won't get points for that. But, he does record them from LA. We spoke to them about that when we interviewed him for SNL Stories. But if he does come to New York, there's a good chance that he could do something, whether it's a voiceover in a sketch or even an impression. Could he do a Bill Clinton impression at some point, coming on in for that? I think it's not unrealistic. At SNL40, we had him in the Celebrity Jeopardy sketch as Sean Connery, so I don't think we're going to get a Celebrity Jeopardy again because of all the people who have passed that have been involved in that sketch. But I think that this is a very solid pick here with Daryl at pick number 28. Haynes, how do you feel about Daryl going here to Kirstin?
I really, we just went 3 in a row that I really hoped were coming back around to me. It hurts. It hurts watching all this go down. But I think Daryl Hammond's a really great pick. I do think it would be kind of impossible for him not to show up in one way or another at some point. He was just such an impact player for so long, does so many great impressions. I'm a big impressions guy. I mean, he was kind of like an idol of mine growing up. I just think the world of him. And he's just been so important to the show. So there's no way we don't see him at some point, and hopefully a few times.
Okay, there you go. We got Daryl Hammond to Kirstin here in the 4th round. Amanda, you're up next. You have Sandler, Molly Shannon, and Rachel Dratch. Who will be your 4th pick?
I have so many feelings. I'm going to go with a pick that I think is going to be very unexpected. And somebody who is, in my opinion, a mainstay in Lorne Michaels' project Eternal of SNL, and was not a star during their tenure at SNL, but was always a solid, great. Whenever they were on screen, you were secure. You know you're going to get comedy because this person secures to the bit. This is also somebody who is from my hometown of Detroit. So I'm going to pick Tim Meadows because that's everyone in the. Yeah, I'm right, guys. It's a great pick. Like the man will. He's not going to host, but the man will do a cameo. The man will show up. If you call him, he is there. He gets off a flight from Michigan. He's like, okay, I'm here. Give me 24 hours. Bye, and then gets the game goes. Great, love him. Perfect, solid.
I love the pick. I think it's a great pick here with Tim Meadows. I don't think we've actually seen him appear on the show itself since like 2005. I think he cameoed in like an Alec Baldwin episode, I'm going to say. But yeah, it's been a long time. But I think they did try and get him the first time Chappelle hosted the show. He was hilarious in SNL50 during the Q&A and the back and forth. And I think that he will definitely be a part of SNL50 in some sense. So this makes sense. Amanda, love this pick totally. Bill, what do you think about that pick?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I completely lost track. What was the pick again? I'm so sorry.
Bill, what do you think about the Tim Meadows pick?
Tim Meadows. What a career. He was the only missing piece of the Eddie Murphy monologue as well. I think we talked about that on the hosting countdown, right? Where
we did.
Yeah. So what a great tenure he had on the show. One of the best comebacks in the history of cast members. His first 4 years were terrible. And then everything kind of turned around when the Will and Sherrys of it all came into it. I would love to see him back. As long as he doesn't bring back Ladies Man, because I think that's kind of played and it's probably doesn't translate to 2024 anyway, but anything else, yeah, Tim Meadows would be fantastic
unless Ladies Man is modernized.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Catching Bill not paying attention on a podcast is like catching like the teacher's pet like doing something wrong in school. It was like the most fascinating moment. Yeah.
Listen,
I was TJ has me so fucked up about Caddyshack that I can't even fucking think straight, man. I'm like,
I know. I was going to address it. I was going to come in and say the reason that both Bill and I.
Black woman. That's all I
Bill
got. And the rest of y'all's picks.
Bill and I were late coming in.
That is
Wait, hold on. Let Bill say
it. TJ, we're taking everybody behind the fourth wall here.
Let Bill say it.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, I love Amanda's bit right now. She's not being ignored. But TJ is behind the scenes here. TJ is blowing up the private chat saying Bill Murray's never been funny in anything.
I never said that.
Very distracting.
I said I don't see his appeal, and I think he's mid. Like I just think he's our like I don't get it.
On that
I'm
note,
a grown man. Don't you shush me.
All right.
I'm literally in fucking tears. Oh my god! All I said
Amanda,
was Caddyshack is terrible in all caps.
I am laser focused on what Amanda is saying 99% of the time. So I
said what I said though. He's mid. I don't get it. Except Groundhog Day.
Amanda, are we good to continue? Is there anything else?
Amanda, I'm so sorry.
Madam President.
Okay, let's keep going. Sammy, we got.
Can I go now?
I think the coast is clear. I think you're good. Dana Carvey, Sudeikis in jail. Do you bin your picks? Let's keep going with pick number 30.
just want to give a shout out to Tim Meadows. I got to represent Detroit here. Okay. I am shocked that this person is still available to be picked. I have them at number 14 on my ranked list. So to get them this late into the draft, I think is pretty exciting. I think this is somebody who I think has been a common theme as we've been doing this podcast. Somebody who, while they were on the show and soon after the show, was such a huge star and a comedic force that I feel like is kind of slept on these days. Now that we, go back and we revisit some of our favorite cast members and characters, and I'm going with Mike Myers here for my next pick. I have Dana Carvey as well. So you get a Wayne's World sketch. That's an automatic 2 points, or, whether it's in, SNL50 or, if it's in another episode, that's solid value right there. And I just want to throw something out there. We're talking about who's going to play Tim Walz on the show. I mean, I don't think Mike Myers is a terrible pick if they want to go the stunt casting route. He is such a chameleon. And, I would love to see him kind of take this, this Midwestern guy and, see what he could do with it. So Mike Myers here for my fourth pick.
I love the pick. This is a really solid one. I think, he guaranteed will do something in SNL50. Last appeared on the show in 2015 in the first Gosling episode. So it's been a while. I think that there's a possibility that they would want to get him in. Again, one of the biggest stars that SNL has ever had. And I don't know that they acknowledge him that much. He's hosted once. He was a special guest for a John Goodman episode. But for me, it's a very good pick here from Sammy Kay. Rachel, let me ask you, been a while since we heard from you. What are your thoughts on Mike Myers going here to Sammy at 30?
I just went down my list and looked at and realized I had Mike Myers at 10, and I don't know why I was going strategy and looking over him too. I think I was starting to go with the more cameos. So I completely agree. He's a name to people outside of SNL. Wayne's World will for sure be the heart part of the 50th in some way. You've got the pair. Solid pick.
All right, Sammy, great job with that one. Rachel, let's continue with you. You have a fantastic team, if I might say so, with Maya Rudolph, Seth Meyers, and Will Forte. So who will you pick at pick number 31? We got 10 more picks left in this draft.
I am stuck. Oh my gosh, I really don't know where to go. I'm about to ruin my team whichever way I go. I might take a bet on a rumor that's out there that I personally did not believe when it was out there. But for a whole different reason, I'm going to go with this person because I know they're willing to pop in to a pre-tape and just last season and just this year and be completely unacknowledged for being in the pre-tape. Oh no, I shouldn't go with this person. But they'll be at the 50th. They'll get me a point. Kyle Mooney?
Okay. There you go. Kyle Mooney, pick number 31. So I do have to acknowledge, though, that if Kyle Mooney appears on the show and his sketch is cut for time, we will not award you that point, Rachel. So just
we should give it to her. We should give her like a half point.
Doesn't count.
It's for Kyle, John. It's for Kyle.
You should get half a point. That should be the Kyle Mooney rule. The Kyle Mooney.
I love that. We're already looking at his cut sketches.
Kyle Mooney for points. Don't try to.
I'm very particular about this.
Exception.
The Kyle Mooney exception.
No, we're gonna build.
Cut him.
Yeah, we're gonna build.
I can't believe it was cut for time, but it was so just funny. Unacknowledged.
We're basing this draft on the original 50-year fabric of the show, that if your piece doesn't get into the show, then it doesn't actually exist. So that is the point system here. But, there is a rumor out there.
But cut for time and put on YouTube should get at least a 10th of a point.
Yes.
When SNL is no longer airs between 11:30 and 1 a.m., then we will count that. But for now,
this is such like a boomer take, John. It's the internet. We can't ignore the internet.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's in this weird.
They said that's the first time they ever said go watch.
They directed
the audience to it.
to go watch it.
Hold on, Amanda's voice just got so high pitched. It just got.
If they put it behind a paywall, it's still a part of the podcast.
And it's not even a paywall. It's YouTube.
The show was created so that they could. It was a 90-minute show, and whatever gets in the
SNL to us. To the people
Yes.
you assembled.
Yes, because clearly you guys don't understand it. That the
Oh,
show
really, John?
the show only
people?
airs between 11:30 and like
I think
1:03
the
a.m.
fans should
So
vote. Hey,
yes,
I think fans should vote. See, look, she's mad.
I'm sorry.
you
Anyways, it doesn't count, Rachel, but I
She's
appreciate the
defending
effort.
Kyle Mooney.
And
She loves Kyle.
If
Yes.
Kyle Mooney is willing to come back and be in a cut sketch, he's going to sit in the audience in February 2025. He's going to sit in the audience, and that gets a point, right?
no, there's no points for sitting in the audience. There's points for you.
No.
No. There's
You have
points
to
for
be
no. You don't just like.
appearing in the February special. That is the point.
If Jon Schneider
right?
walks on stage and goes, "Kyle Mooney is here," and then like the camera goes to him, then yes, that counts. But otherwise, if they just like pan over the audience and it's like, "Oh, I see Kyle's hair," like that doesn't count.
They do have to
John,
see.
are you
not
allowed
the
to be
same
in this?
thing.
Are you allowed to be in this draft now? Are you a former cast member?
I've never been a cast member, so.
I had a dream that I was a
But,
cast member.
anyways,
guys. It was
Rachel-
crazy.
Get John.
Rachel-
I want to go with the language in the point system is appearing. An
Oh my
appearance is a panning.
John is like, give it up, please.
It's
I've
not.
ruled.
It's not. It's really not.
No,
It's sorry.
I support what
Okay.
Rachel's saying. I
If it
get
did
it.
not say appear, I would not have picked. I would have picked my other pick.
Do you want it?
Yeah,
do you want me to
wanna
give you
change
a
it?
mea culpa? Do you want to change it? No other picks have been made. You could change your pick if you want. But I'm saying if you were picking Kyle because you thought he might host because of that rumor, no problem. Still counts. If he hosts, he hosts. If he cameos and it appears in the show, in the broadcast of the show, then no problem. That will count. So it's your choice. But decide now if you want a mea culpa this, and we'll put Kyle back on the board.
If he
YouTube is
hosts
the
an
best
episode that's entirely cut, first time in history where he
It's a
hosts
lost
an
episode of SNL.
Yeah.
A lost
So, Rachel, what's
Kyle
your-
Mooney episode.
Oh my god, I have to make a game time decision. My other choice is equally terrible. So,
Poor Kyle.
Oh my god, Kyle is just
Leave
catching
Kyle
hands.
alone.
Oh my god, let him,
I mean,
let Kyle get up.
everything else in the Dumois is very believable. This is the one thing that's kind of,
That little gossip site.
everything else
I
there
heard
is
that bitch ain't
fairly
even French.
believable.
Like,
No,
I heard she not even French.
Rein it in, John. Rein it in.
All right, Rachel, you have
I have
15 seconds to make a pick.
I'm sticking with my pick.
Okay, there you go. Locked in. Haynes, so you're up next. Kyle Mooney's off the board for you. You do have back-to-back picks here. So you're going to end the fourth round. You're going to start the last round of the draft. So go ahead, please.
Woo. Okay. All right. Well, I feel like there's a million people left on here who could pop up in the 50th anniversary special. You know, so that makes it a little bit tough. So I am kind of going with for the last pick of the fourth round. I am going to go with someone else who I think is very widely utilized, loves to do cameos and can play a million different roles, not super unlike the Fred Armisen pick I made earlier. I'm going to toss out Chris Parnell. I think Chris Parnell we see a few times this season, I hope.
That would be the dream to see Chris Parnell pop up. I mean, will we? That is an interesting question because, I mean, he has cameoed on like random times basically to do some impressions like he did Jim Lehrer when he was, they were debate sketches, but we haven't really seen him come back to the show too many times total. And yeah, it would be awesome though to get him there. He did appear in SNL50. I think he was in that Andy Samberg short that we had, the That's When You Break. So that was fun to get him in that one because obviously his relationship and with Lazy Sunday and all of that. But yeah, I think that there's definitely a good chance that Parnell appears. I just don't know what he will do. So that is a big question mark for me, but I love the pick because one of my favorite cast members ever. Kirstin, your thoughts on Parnell going here to Haynes' final pick of the fourth round?
Oh, I love him so much. Like, he's someone I'm crossing my fingers will appear. There's a few people like that I think, like a Taran Killam, who would be top of my list if for some reason there was not some weird energy between him and the show that we don't know about. But I would love, love, love if Chris Parnell racked you up a whole bunch of points because it just means that we get to see him. So I think it's a great pick. Could it be strategic? Yeah, if he's going to like show up for the 50th like we all want him to, if nothing else, it's just a pick to show some love.
Okay, so we're through 4 rounds of the draft. Everyone on this podcast has one more pick left to go. So here we go, Haynes. Who is going to complete your team at pick number 33?
I could see this person doing something that they've done before when they were on the show, and something that they have, revisited when they've, made return appearance. And maybe they wouldn't want to beat it up too much, but this person brings a lot to the table, and she has, been in a lot of very important sketches, and I just don't see any way of getting out of season 50, especially considering the special, without the illustrious Jane Curtin.
Yeah, love that. Very, very solid pick here with Jane. Truly one of my favorite moments of SNL40 was getting to see Jane up there with Amy and Tina and just like honoring her and stuff like that. This is like, I think if you ask Jon, like, pick an alumni that you could choose of anyone to come back to the show at some point, it would be Jane. Like, I just love her so much. And
part of this is just a heart pick.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like this final round is. I feel like a lot of this now is like who might appear in the season and like who do we really want to be there. So love the heart pick here with Jane being the choice. Amanda, your thoughts on this pick from Haynes?
Like, there was a time in my life when I could not talk about Jane Curtin without crying. Like,
Why?
I don't know. I genuinely, like, I think it's because, like, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Like, Jane Curtin from SNL was, like, the mom, Third Rock from the Sun, and, like, that whole dynamic. So, like, she's been around my entire life. And the same way I talk about Tim Meadows, it's like, Jane Curtin shows up, you are safe. Like, she's never bad. And she's such a joy to watch, and she's so refreshing, and she went to hell and back on this show. And I think it's a great pick. She deserves to be recognized because there's a lot of women, Gilda, that we can't recognize in this. So, like, yeah, thrilling, wonderful. Love me some Jane. Yeah.
Very solid pick from you, Haynes. Great job. All right, Rachel. So, you picked that Kyle Mooney pick and you created a lot of controversy over here, but we need to know who's going to round out your team of Maya, Seth, Forte, Kyle, and who.
Boy, I think this is where my handicap really comes into play. I don't quite know. I'm balancing out the big names versus I'm not familiar with all the innuendos of their relationship with the show. And so I'm going to go with one because of proximity and that she's in town. And I know she's busy while she's in town, but that doesn't mean she can't. A pre-tape counts, right?
Yeah, that does count. As long as a pre-tape appears on the show, it counts.
And she was at the 40th. I'm going to go with Anna Gasteyer.
It's a great pick. Yeah. Anna's a fantastic pick because, she was, had a sitcom on NBC, clearly has great relationships with people like, Tina and Amy and all of them. So, this is a very, very, very solid choice by you. And this is somebody that if she would have lasted to me, I would have taken her, Rachel. So great job here.
And she is starring in Once Upon a Mattress. So she will be on Broadway and busy, but that doesn't mean there aren't off moments where she could pop in and do something quickly. Although I think Saturday nights is going to be tough for her to do any cameos.
Yes, but she'll definitely be at SNL50. She did the Culps in SNL40. So I think this is a very solid choice by you. TJ, you like the pick?
I love the pick. That sitcom she was on NBC a couple years ago, American Auto, I believe is one of the most underrated new comedies we got in the 2020s. I put it up there with like a Superstore, like Outsourced, just like underrated NBC comedies that like just did not get their due. I watched every episode of that and she was great in it, playing this villainous car company CEO. I had like known who Anna Gasteyer was. I'd seen her in things. I think a lot about the wasn't there like a Real Housewives of SNL special or like a sketch? I that she was also in. I'd seen her in things. I'd seen like the Shreddy Ball stuff. Like I'd seen her in little bits, but that for me was where I fell in love with her and like got to see her for a long period of time. And I was clamoring for her to host because of how she was doing in American Idol. I thought it was just an easy layup. So I would love to see her. I think she's so funny, and like that sitcom just ended. Like she's clearly like she hasn't missed a beat. So yeah.
All right, Sammy, it's up to you now for your final pick. You have Dana, Jason, JLD, Mike Myers, and who will be your final pick?
John, if I may, I'm going to start my fifth pick and last pick of the draft by reading a quote. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's a quote from the late great Albert Einstein, who was also recently in a movie last year called Oppenheimer, and someone that just won an Oscar for their work in Oppenheimer, who also just happens to be a former SNL cast member, who was just announced to be the new big Marvel villain, Dr. Doom himself. I'm going with Robert Downey Jr., and I believe we're going to need to get Mike Murray to get the stats on this one. This may be my third or fourth time picking Robert Downey Jr. in the draft. We'll have to gamble.
You do it a lot.
I've also never won a draft.
I'm pretty sure I've heard the name Robert Downey Jr. come out of your mouth in that exact kind of tenor.
I don't think he was that 40th.
I've never won a draft, but again, SNL50 seems like the time. So, and he's nominated for an Emmy, and if it doesn't happen this season, then that will be me retiring from picking him in drafts. I can promise the viewers that.
What if we're drafting season 11 cast members? Would you pick him then?
Well, come back to me on that one.
Yeah. Also, first former cast member to win an Oscar, so that happened recently. So, I mean, like, it's not unrealistic. I think the show would love to do it. I don't know if RDJ wants to do it. That's the question here. But I don't think he appeared in SNL40. So I think what you took here, Sammy, is what I would describe as a very risky pick. Very high upside. If he hosts, you get those 3 points. Very low downside in that he may give you a complete 0 this year. You may not see him in the 50th special, where there are other people on the board who are more likely to appear at SNL50. So I love the risk here that you took, but you got to go all in.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, love it. All right, let's keep going with Amanda here. So Amanda, you have Sandler, Molly Shannon, Rachel Dratch, and Tim Meadows. And who will be your final pick?
Sheer Zameda, because she's in WandaVision and she needs to be Obama one more time. WandaVision, yeah, the new Wanda, the Agatha
show.
Yes, and so in the case that Catherine Hahn hosts, which I absolutely can see happening because she's a genius. Absolutely, I see that. That's a cameo that's right there. She's right there. We're going to get some Michelle, Kamala cameos, and we also need the show to recognize its fragile history with casting Black women. So, congratulations. Nice. Love you. Welcome to the table.
Love the pick here.
Does Shashir want to do that? Didn't she leave the show because she just didn't want to do it anymore? Like, does she have a good relationship with the show?
But there's a lot of people who've been like that over the years for various reasons, and then they've come back many years later. So it's possible that, just to, be a part of an anniversary special or stuff like that. I think it would be really fun to see her pop up. I got to see her at Just for Laughs a couple years back and got to talk to her a little bit. And she seems to be in a good place. So I'm hoping that we will get to see her back. So I love the pick here, Amanda. So very, very solid job.
She's very funny with Nicole Byer. I love her anytime she's with Nicole Byer. I love her. She's so funny.
Let's keep going with Kirstin, who has Will Ferrell, Amy Poehler, Bill Hader, and Daryl Hammond. And our 37th pick will be who, Kirstin?
Someone who is criminally underrated, but every time you see this person, I guarantee you will laugh. They've done some fun stuff outside of the show, and while I don't think they're going to host, the show would be foolish not to include them for cameos and on the 50th. I'm talking about Vanessa Bayer.
Yeah, love this pick with Vanessa. I mean, somebody who we all keep saying like, oh, how fun would it be if Vanessa Bayer hosted the show? I think in the fan service version of season 50, where they're starting to bring in alumni who haven't hosted the show before that we want to see come back. I think we get Vanessa as a host, but I don't know if that's the case that we'll get Vanessa, as a host. But I would love to see her at some point during SNL 50. She was part of the Californians during SNL 40. So, there's a good chance that we see her with some people from her era. So really strong pick here from you, Kirstin. Sammy, I know you're a big Vanessa person, so that must be an exciting pick for you.
Yeah, and if I wasn't committing to the bit of picking Robert Downey Jr. in multiple drafts, she was like my real pick. Someone who
don't backtrack now.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not backtracking. I'm committing to the bit. The Vanessa Bayer is incredibly underrated, and I believe she has a ton of great characters that you could definitely see come back. You got to think about people who were on the show during SNL 40 who have since left. Being able to honor some of those cast members from that era, and she is definitely way up there on the list as far as great cast members, great female cast members, all-time cast members in general. So great pick.
Okay, Bill Kenney, you have a really fascinating team here with Eddie Murphy, Cecily Strong, Chris Rock, and Bill Murray. So who will you round out your team with?
This is really tough because there's somebody I want to pick that would just be like a berserk choice to host. Had such a spotty career with SNL and then went on to tremendous success with their own sketch show. But I'm not going to do it because he hasn't shown any interest in going back to SNL. He wasn't on the show long enough to be definitely guaranteed to even be at 50, let alone be on camera. So I'm going to go with one of my favorites who did have a prominent role in both the 25th and the 40th. R.I.P. Jon Lovitz. I'm going to go.
God damn it.
Yeah, this is a good pick here. I think that there's a very decent chance that they continue the bit in SNL 50 that they started in SNL 40 of doing the in memoriam and then including Lovitz in that. It's been a long time since we've seen Jon Lovitz host the show. I don't think that's going to happen, but he did cameo a few years back in a very random cold open playing Alan Dershowitz. So I mean, like he obviously is somebody who could come back. I mean, I really thought that we were going to get him. Was it last year that Bowen Yang was playing? Who was the guy that
George Santos?
Yeah, Santos. Like I thought that would have been Lovitz's liar character. Like that would have made sense to sort of include him there, but I guess wrong era to bring him back. But yeah, I think this is a great pick. Jon Lovitz seems like a very solid one. And TJ, I'm sure you look like you wanted to take Lovitz here.
I did. Well, I was just trying to decide. Lovitz was like in my I'm still trying to decide, but he was in my top 3 of trying to decide who to take. And okay. It's so funny that joke about him being in the in memoriam, I still find it funny to this day for some reason. Like I still think about it, and it's been 9 years, and for some reason it's a nothing of a joke of him just being like baffled that he's included in the memoriam. But the idea that he's dead is just so funny. I was like, John, we can't include Jon Lovitz because he's not alive. I just thought it was a very silly bit.
So who will be your last pick? You picked Tina Fey, Kristen Wiig, Andy Samberg, and Dan Aykroyd so far. So your final pick is who?
So this is the thing, because you and I get to have kind of the last of the cream of the crop here. I get a chance to crush a potential dream you might have.
I get the scraps.
Yeah, you get the scraps. Part of me is tempted to take Chevy because I do think there's a strong likelihood of that given his connection to the history of the show. But again, even though I love Pierce Hawthorne, he's just such a tool. He's just such a tool. I would like to go, maybe this time for the return of Catan. Maybe, no, I'm kidding. No. Honestly, this is okay. I would like to take Bobby Moynihan. I'm surprised he went this long. I know 9 years is one of the longer longevities. Is one of the longer terms in the show. But there's a certain lovableness to Bobby Moynihan. There's an underratedness, but there's a strong appreciation there and a solid fan base to his great sketch work. He's a solid sketch performer. And to me, I think of him like not in the same caliber, but in the same utility as a Tim Meadows. Somebody who's like, you really can just like put him in, great sketch performer. But do they really ever get their due? I think Tim Meadows gets it because he's a Mean Girls and that's an iconic film. But Moynihan, I don't think we've gotten that same thing. Like, has he surpassed the Rick and Morty bit that made him want to quit the show in the first place? And so while we think he's great in the lexicon of the show, I think he has a place at 50. Not just, for Anthony Crispino, not just for Drunk Uncle, not just for David S. Pumpkins, but for his time as a cast member, and of course his time as Stan. So shout out to Bobby Moynihan. Still a great joke to this day.
Speaking of R.I.P.
Stan.
Yeah, this was my pick. So you definitely sniped me here.
Yes!
I was going to go with Bobby to finish the podcast. Love Bobby Moynihan. Obviously, we got to talk to him a couple times here on the SNN, on SNL Stories, and I just think he's so fantastic, and I would love to see him host. Clearly has a great friend still at the show in Mikey Day, so if there's ever a reason for him to come pop up, that's an option. Should be a part of SNL50 in some sense. So, I think it's a very solid pick from you. The final pick in the draft for me, I did have a backup option, and I think I'm feeling pretty good about this one because I think I can again squint and see something here. This is a full potential bullseye that may just win me this whole thing if it works out. But I'm thinking about who has a very long shot of hosting this season or could cameo, but will definitely be in 50 because we saw them in 40. I'm going to go with David Spade here to finish out the draft. I think if Dana hosts, there's a chance he does it with Spade, and that would get me a lot of points. He did do the bye-bye thing in SNL 40, and he's still talking about the show. So he's hosted twice before. So I think that there is a shot here, an outside shot that Spade comes in and gets me some last-minute points. Haynes, what do you think? Did I do well to round out this draft?
I think you did, and I thought about Spade too, and just briefly, and I haven't, and I used to listen to that podcast a lot, haven't been recently, but you make a great point that did not cross my mind. Of course, bringing them together, first of all, it would be the only way that Spade would be hosting. He wouldn't get to do it by himself. Dana Carvey could. I think would be much more likely to do it by himself. But it's a great point that he actually does have a slim chance of hosting, as popular as that podcast is, if they bring the two of them back. And of course, the reason that I thought about him is because, he's just such a well-known cast member that I do expect to see him in season 50. But it's a great point that, they could pull a little double duty thing. And that would be some serious points.
Okay, so my final team is Marty, Kate, Tracy Morgan, Pete, and David Spade. Now, what we will do as we wrap up this draft show is I'm going to go to each of you. I'm going to ask you to tell me who is on your team, or if you don't remember, I could read your team. Tell me why your team is the best. Tell the listeners why they should pick your team as predicting that it will do the best this season. Any plugs you have as well, and maybe somebody who you didn't get to draft today but you wish you could have. So, Haynes, I'll start with you.
All right, so, ladies and gentlemen, take it from me, your reigning draft champ. This guy knows how to pick his picks. All right, so if you're out there voting, you know that you're rolling with a champ right now. I'm basically the Kansas City Chiefs of this here draft thing. So on my team, we've got A.D. Bryant. I'm just going down the list, so it looks like they're going to be in alphabetical order. Fred Armisen, Jane Curtin, Jimmy Fallon,
and Parnell,
and Chris Parnell. Is that it? Is that the whole list?
Yep, you got it.
Yeah. So you've got an original cast member. You've got players who can hit all sorts of characters. You have just a really talented slate, and like I said, this is coming from a reigning champion. Not everyone knows what it's like to be the champ, but this guy does. So that's a strong team you're looking at.
Haynes, anybody you wish you could have taken that you didn't get a chance to?
Yeah, a ton of people. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna say, because then that'll prop up these other teams that don't look that good, from a champion's perspective.
Okay.
But
Sounds good to me. Anything you'd like to plug?
Well, I don't know if you guys have heard, but I'm the reigning champion
All right.
the draft.
Rachel, let's move on. Rachel,
it'll never happen again. That's why I said this.
Yeah, Rachel, you drafted Maya, Seth, Forte, Kyle, and Anna Dyer. So please tell the listeners why you did such a great job tonight, and anything you would like to plug to them, and maybe somebody else you wish you could have drafted.
I don't have confidence in my entire slate, but I do think I shot darts in very different directions and took a big risk. Who knows? If it's out in the universe, it could happen with Mr. Rooney. But I am very confident in, obviously, hopefully, Maya and Seth. And I think Forte is also pretty solid. So I'm excited about my lineup. My kind of pick I almost didn't go with was Anna because I am such a big Broadway fan and was wondering if that was swaying me. But then I figured she was kind of a sure bet because she's around too, for at least a little something. The one that I kind of was going back and forth on was Leslie Jones. I feel like I just feel like I spent the Olympics with her, and I feel like she's still a friend of the family. She hasn't shown up, but she's still around, and she had more than one. Right, she definitely had a couple commercials, so her star power is still there. So I was kind of going back and forth on her, and yeah, I was kind of I kept almost taking Chevy too. I was just like, I don't know. Are we basing on personality or are we basing? I mean, they're going to do something weekend up. I was going with all the weekend update folks. I kept going. They're going to have to do something weekend update again. Just because they did it in 40th doesn't mean they're not going to do a 50th. So they have to do something. And I just can't imagine that they wouldn't bring back. I was close to taking Colin Quinn too, just because he's also in New York and around. And I'm at the Comedy Cellar every day. So I figure why not pop up to 30 Rock? So yeah, this was educational. This process was educational.
It was great to have you on, Rachel. Anywhere where everybody can check out all of your amazing work that you do?
I guess follow me on Instagram, Rachel S. Chang there, or on Twitter at Rachel Chang, no S.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh,
Sammy
sorry,
Kay.
not Twitter, X. Sorry.
It's all good. Sammy, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's talk about your team here that you had with Dana, Jason, JLD, Mike Myers, and RDJ. So why is that team the best?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good about my team. I legitimately think all 5 of my players have a strong chance at potentially hosting. Even Mike Myers is somebody who, if they want to play some of the more fan service stuff, could see him potentially hosting. Hey, you suggested a Dana Carvey and Spade episode. What about a Dana Carvey and Mike Myers show? Can you imagine that? Now that's something I'd love to see in SNL50. But yeah, Carvey, all-time great cast member. Jason Sudeikis had such a great episode a couple seasons ago. JLD has a movie to promote, and again is just a comedy legend. Already talked about Mike Myers, and again, got to commit to the bit. Robert Downey Jr. If he's going to host ever again, I really think SNL50 is the time, and I'm, betting big on Downey. I'm watching SNL season 11 at the moment. He's not a great cast member, but he is a great all-time actor in general. So would love to see him come back and have a full circle moment similar, to some of the things we saw in SNL40. And then as far as somebody I wish I was, kind of considering of drafting, obviously, would have been nice to get an original cast member in here. I was, toying with the idea of bringing Lorraine Newman onto my squad. But there's also Billy Crystal, who was an all-time star on the show during season 10. And again, is still a comedy legend and is somebody who is just a great host in general. Was a classic host at the Academy Awards. So, we'll see if he makes an appearance during SNL50. But yeah, no, this is great. Thanks for having me. You guys can find me at that Sammy Kay on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And definitely go back and check out the, SNL Superfan takeovers as well. We have a bunch of those. And yeah.
Thank you, Sammy. Amanda, you had a really fun draft. This time you got Sandler, Molly Shannon, Rachel Dratch, Tim Meadows, and Sashir Zameda. So let's talk about your team a little bit and anything you would like to plug to the listeners.
I'm here to just say, pick me. I like nice things. I've never won one of these. I don't enjoy drafts because I'm very competitive. But also, I picked a solid list of famous people, secure, solid, like go-to gals, people that we feel safe with, and then one wild card that we would just be thrilled and joyful to see. And you know what? I think I've checked all the boxes of what you need in a draft team. And for this, I think I deserve an award and your love and affection. Thank you. And also, they were very mean to me on this podcast. Bill ignored me. So honestly, if you don't vote for me, it's, you guys have seen. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Loch Ness Manda. It's in the caption right here.
Perfect.
Click it.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Kirstin, thank you so much for joining us. Always fun to get you on one of these draft shows. So let's tell the listeners why your team is the best.
You bet. Thanks for having me. I'll tell you why my team is the best. I have got Will, Amy, Daryl, Vanessa, and Bill. You've got some unmatched versatility and iconic character work. I mean, you look at people who have brought both unique sets of characters and impressions that really define their time on the show, over the top personas and a real fearlessness. You've got some oddball characters in Bill Hader and his Stefan. These folks created content that is completely rewatchable at any point in time. And there's a lot of callbacks to their character work. So whenever they reappear, there's a lot of nostalgia. So I think at any point that you watched or whatever decade that you watched, you've still got to appreciate the era that these folks operated in. And they've also done a lot of great work as they seamlessly transitioned from cast to host, which is really impressive. They knew the rhythm of the show and the format and the chemistry. And so those are the folks that will get brought back. I think there is an epically strong team here that I believe is going to rack me up some points. And listen, it's among good company. I think everyone's got amazing teams, but we'll have to see. We're all going to be calculating the scores as season 50 plays out.
Thanks, Kirstin. Anything you want to plug?
You bet. If you're in the Toronto area, please check out generationwomen.ca. It's an intergenerational storytelling event that we host seasonally in the city.
Thank you so much. Bill, you have a really great team. So tell the listeners why it is the best one.
I have 5 GOATs here in Eddie Murphy, Cecily Strong, Chris Rock, Bill Murray, and R.I.P. John Lovitz. All icons of their eras, have all done amazing work after the show, coming back to the show. So I think this is the best team for you. A couple honorable mentions. I alluded to Tim Robinson. What a talent he's been doing. I think he should leave. It's just amazing to see what he's been able to do after leaving the show, but I don't think he'll come back. And Abby Elliott, who is crushing it on The Bear, and would love to see her come back, but I don't know that we would see her, but that would be amazing. Make sure you go back and listen to our coverage of Blues Brothers Convention, and John and I are wrapping up the host countdown in the next few weeks, so going to be a lot of fun conversation about that. And Amanda, I love you, and I would never ignore you.
Thanks, Bill. TJ, let's talk about your team that you have drafted and tell the listeners why it is the best one.
Well, clearly I established myself as the best and the most dominant of the my fellow panelists here, because since I called them dumb, that automatically means that I'm smarter than them, which means I would obviously pick the smartest picks for the team. And you guys, the listener, who are also smart, just like me, dear listeners, because I'm the only one who talks to your listeners. The rest of these panelists are talking to each other. I'm here to be a podcaster and to talk to you. I think
TJ.
it's great. Okay, all right. Okay. That's fair. I needed to be checked that time. All right, so Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig, first and foremost, wouldn't we just love to see the two of them like team up on something? I feel like there could be something really incredible there, even if like Tina is like writing it. I think with Tina's writing skills, you have I think Tina's writing skills and then like Andy's ideas when it comes to like building shorts and the teams that he brings in, I think we have the possibilities to not only have these people in the building, because I don't even think about them being in the building. Tina's going to be there. Like Tina's going to be there. Chris is going to be there. Andy's going to be there. I would almost bet money like that they will be in the building for 50. Like it's the closest thing to gambling versus when I used to gamble in Celadon City. And I feel like, we have these Tina and Kristen, two incredibly funny women who are like modern icons of comedy. Also, didn't Tina win the Mark Twain Award for American Humor? She's literally considered one of the funniest women of all time by American standards. I think we know Andy's going to produce something great. It's going to be a wonderful time. Dan Aykroyd is going to help us think about the history of the show. From its early days, giving respect to the early days of the show, and Bobby Moynihan and Andy Samberg bringing that lovable boyish charm, that plucky boyish charm, the 2000s boy band charm that they bring. I just think my team's pretty good. Honestly, I think they're pretty solid.
And where can the listeners check you out?
You listeners, you can check me out on my podcast Rabbit Trail, which I recently ended. Last month, I closed Rabbit Trail after. Actually, no, it's good. Everything's okay. I ended Rabbit Trail after 150 episodes. I felt like that was a really good number to stop at. I'm proud to have done it. 150 episodes of anything, takes a lot of work. I'm very happy with it. Our last couple episodes were on reboots and finales. We talked about possible ways to reboot the show, like Rabbit Trail on Ice. But it's a 15-minute-ish podcast where me and my friends just got a chance to talk to each other about whatever we wanted to. If you like listening to my voice, feel free to check me out on. You can look our social media up at We Are Rabbit Trail. We did a little goodbye tribute video. But you can find Rabbit Trail, RABID, anywhere that you get podcasts. But, you'll still catch me in a podcast here or there. Just happy to be talking. Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, DJ, for joining us. So my team, to finish the things off, I drafted Marty Short, who I think has a great chance of hosting for the 5th time this season. Kate McKinnon, who is a natural to just come on into the building whenever they need her. Tracy Morgan, who I think would be so much fun to get back. Pete Davidson, obviously Lauren's son, a shoo-in, has to be there. And David Spade took the outside shot, but might hit the bullseye with that one. So I think I got a fun team here that I think could accumulate enough points to match up with some of the others on this list. And I think this draft was so much fun. There were some people that I wish I could have taken. So just some other names I had on the list that we haven't talked about tonight that I thought about. I thought about Paul Schaefer, just in terms of like him coming back with Bill Murray. That could have been an option. Kevin Nealon, I think, is another really good option. Joe Piscopo, not everybody's favorite person, but I do think that they may do something with him. Ben Stiller, I think, is an outside option here that, he's cameoed so many times. I think that could have been a pick tonight. Jim Belushi, I think, is somebody who they will definitely have at the 50th. Some writers, to consider would have been Al Franken, Jim Downey, Robert Smigel as people who could have appeared. Ellen Cleghorn had a big moment at SNL40, so she was another one. Taron Killam and Jay Farrow, who were let go about 10 years ago. I think that they're going to have some role this season. We may finally get them back. So other good options. Beck Bennett, we didn't talk about tonight, but somebody who I think everyone's clamoring to have back. And Alex Moffat, who our friend Andy Hoagland recently interviewed, said he misses SNL. I mean, I think that would have been a fun one. Maybe the Trump sons, we get them back at some point. So these are options that I think could have been on the board tonight, and maybe you drafting at home may consider for your drafts. So we have so much going on here at the SNN. Every single week we've been doing the host countdown with Bill, so make sure to go back and check those out if you missed them over the summer. We have our new Everything You Need to Know About Saturday Night Live series, where we will return with season 11 coming up. So in case you want to go back and check out everything you need to know from the first 10 seasons of Saturday Night Live, that's all available in the backlog right now. We're going to have so much coverage of the 50th season of Saturday Night Live ramping up as we get to the next few weeks, including once we get an official cast release, we'll do one more draft before the season where we'll draft this season's cast members. And that's already so much fun that we've done in the last few years. I'm excited to do that one more time here as we ramp up to the season. So just keep it locked here at the Saturday Night Network. You can follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify to never miss any of the episodes. Make sure to click that subscribe button, and you can follow us on all social platforms at the SNL Network. Okay, everybody, I really want to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight. It's a long show, but we do it for the listeners because I know how much you love SNL. So I really appreciate Haynes, Rachel, Sammy, Amanda, Kirstin, Bill, and TJ for taking the time tonight to draft all of these people. It was so much fun being with all of you. I love you all. So on behalf of our entire team here, My name is Jon Schneider from the SNN. We want to thank LateNighter.com as our presenting partner, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.